what it was. It was toilet. It was. They should have stayed in the toilet where most of those players came from.
Holding up a toilet. Silver toilet.
That's a good trophy, that.
Holding that up.
I want to get a picture of that.
Yeah. Someone will AI that.
Staying up trophy.
Someone will AI that and send it to us, mate.
Yeah. It's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, Daz, enjoy it, mate. It's up. It's over. We can all relax now. Got the World Cup coming up.
He's the only one under a rock.
Just relax.
The only one. Only one that's got any. Only one that's got anything about him. Only Spurs fan today.
There are many sporting rivalries that can boast years of history, ferocious tensions and iconic tussles that ignite the fans to their very core. But when it comes to the battle of the mind games and the verbal exchanges in the heat of battles down the decades, the Ashes stands alone. So here are some of the most memorable Ashes housery moments. Few figures in Ashes history were despised by the opposition more than Douglas Jardine. He was the granite-jawed architect of the notorious 1932 Bodyline series, which sent shockwaves through the sport that still reverberate nearly a century later. One day, the hurricane met the tornado as Jardine met Yabba. As the name suggests, Yabba, real name Stephen Harold Gascoigne, was a heckler who became so famous that a statue was made of him. When Jardine was on the boundary swatting away some flies, Yabba yelled the immortal line, "Jardine, leave our flies alone. They're the only friends you've got here." Like Jardine before him, Stuart Broad is another figure who had a particular gift for riling the Aussie public, mainly due to his jaw-dropping survival at Trent Bridge in 2013, when he very visibly nicked off to slip and refused to walk. Broad is somewhat the modern housery king. He officially became a sorcerer in 2023 when his random bail swaps twice bought a wicket with the next ball at the Oval. 3 tests earlier, after that Carey Bairstow run-out, Broad made sure he was right in the thick of the pantomime. Wicketkeeper Ian Healy issued one of the great lines towards Nasser Hussain. When Steve Waugh told Ricky Ponting to field right under Hussain's nose, Healy remarked, "That could be anywhere within a 3-mile radius." Poor Nass. But perhaps the most poetic of sledges came from bowler of lightning bolts Dennis Lillee, about the Yorkshireman of Yorkshiremen, Geoffrey Boycott, about whom Lillee wrote this: "He's the only fellow I've met who fell in love with himself at a young age and has remained faithful ever since." Priceless.
This is Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT. Where this afternoon, Andy, please tell us what's coming up.
Well, coming up over the next 3 hours, Stan Collymore joins us for a team-by-team end-of-season Premier League review.
Yeah.
Stand by for 2 minutes on your team. We worked it out.
2 minutes. We've got to do about 2 minutes on every team.
Former referee Graham Scott reflects on another eventful 9 months for the officials. And the journalist called out by Spurs manager Roberto De Zerbi for being too negative tells us whether he deserved the tag.
We also want TV formats for Brenda Spray. Well, it is Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah.
Andy Brassel brings us the big football stories from around Europe. And Sunderland Till I Die producer Gabe Turner reflects on a fantastic season for his club.
Oh, yeah, brilliant, there's no question. There's all this, plus Ian the Moose Abrahams plots a way forward for his beloved West Ham, as well as keeping us in touch for the League Two playoff final. And what did we learn about Usyk and Verhoeven after their fight in Giza?
Yeah, it was a more interesting fight than I think everybody imagined.
Giza.
So,
Do they pronounce it like that?
Giza.
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 You're right, I mean Giza.
Yeah, Giza. That's how they pronounce it. Yeah, I don't think they pronounce it like that there.
No.
I think if you go there, I don't think the guides will say that, will they? Yeah. Well, we'll be going to the pyramids of Giza.
Giza.
Anyway.
To me, yeah.
It is, what is it, 7 minutes past 1. Good afternoon, everyone.
It was a disaster.
Good afternoon, Andy. Well,
Yes.
I find myself remarkably relieved today. It
Not a surprise.
was a tense old day. As I said last week, it was taking up an awful lot of headspace, what was going on, and which isn't healthy. I mean, it kind of everybody cares about their football club. So, but they got over the line. We weren't celebrating. We were just relieved. It was celebrations of relief.
Perfectly.
There's no open top bus, right? No parade.
Nobody should be critical. There was, it was relief. I thought it was going to be a damp squib, and then West Ham scored, and then they made it quite interesting.
Did make it more interesting, yeah.
If I'd have said to you though, after Chelsea thrashed PSG in the Club World Cup,
Yeah.
we finished below newly promoted Sunderland, you'd have thought I'd taken leave of my senses.
I mean, you got 1 point from your last few games, didn't you? Really? I mean, that would have. Well, no, 3 points. You got 3 points against us, of
yeah,
course.
but we won.
Why did you turn up against us?
Oh,
Andy?
because that's what they do. We won 1 out of the last 8 games. We only won once at home since January the 31st, and we only won once since March. And we would have made.
Would have got Europa League.
We were only a goal away from Europa League yesterday, the way the results fell. But look, good for Sunderland. Congratulations to them. It's a fantastic season. They did brilliantly well. And, the way you view the season is entirely through the prism of your own team.
Yeah.
So if your own team, like Arsenal, were fabulous, you're going to think it was the most wonderful season ever. If your own team was like our 2 teams, you're going to think, "Whew, what a dog." And that was.
Well,
neither's it necessarily right. It's just the prism you view it through.
Well, we're going to look at every team now, and we've got so much to squeeze in. I say it might end up being sort of 2 minutes on each team, but we'll make sure everybody gets a mention along the way. Some teams
do a stopwatch, I think.
Okay, you're going to set an alarm? I think that's probably pushing it a bit. Anyway, joining us then to reflect on the Premier League season team by team is former Liverpool, Forest and England striker Stan Collymore. Hi, Stan, and Villa, of course. Hi, Stan.
Paul, Andy, congratulations. Paul, like you say, no celebrating, but you get to go again next season in the big league. That's the most important thing.
That's the key. Time for a reset, really. I mean, I think they yesterday faced a real opportunity for a reset, and the non-exec director today issuing this statement. Well, talk is cheap, of course. So we'll see and we've been promised lots of things like this before, so we'll see if they actually deliver. But it was either going to be the worst day in the club's history or a chance for a reset, or more of the same. So we'll find out in the fullness of time. Let's work our way through the league table.
We're doing it alphabetically?
I think let's start with the Goons. Let's start with the Arsenal, the champions.
Yeah, alphabetically.
Congratulations. Well, we're just going to go through the league table, not necessarily alphabetically.
Oh, right, I've got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Stan, from an Arsenal point of view, what can you say? I suppose the question is now, with Pep going, are we in for a period of dominance from Arsenal? Who can you see challenging them next year?
I think they'll be up there and around about over the next few years. I think that we can pretty much split the league table, if I'm being perfectly honest, with organisations that have got the recipe right and organisations that have got the recipe wrong. I mean, you could literally look at the league table and say, got a great striker, got a fantastic midfielder, spent well, except recruited well. But it seems to me that the teams that have got, or the clubs that have got the organisational discipline right, round pegs, round holes, people communicating with each other across the organisation have had degrees of success. I'll just give you one example, 2 clubs that I played for. Villa and Liverpool, the first 11s Villa and Forest are very compatible in terms of talent. The squad's very compatible. I'd argue that Forest have probably got a deeper and a better squad. But Evangelos Marinakis is scrapping at some basketball game last night with his T-shirt rip that's gone viral this morning. The 2 Villa owners keep in the background, just put money into the club and have a strategic plan. I think that's the difference between Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. One owner is quite impetuous, emotional. The other owners have built an organisation that is fit for purpose. So if you look at Arsenal, their organisation in recent years has looked at the challenge of Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, and said, look, we can't go and blow them out the water. We are making big amounts of money because we're a big club in a capital city. So we need to make sure that the players that we buy for big money are right. And in Declan Rice, he's certainly up there in the conversation for me as player of the season, because I think that nobody's talked about his transfer fee. He's slotted in seamlessly. He's acted like a leader. He's acted like a captain figure. I think he probably will go on and be Arsenal captain. And I think that for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, he's walked into the club and said, I want to play like Pep. Hasn't happened for 2 or 3 years. Right, okay, I need to pivot to now being pragmatic. I need a bigger physical footprint. I need to be better at corners and set pieces defending. We need to win games ugly. And to their credit, they have done so. From an Arsenal perspective, look, I don't think they're going to go into the top 10 Premier League teams of all time that have played the most attractive football. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because the name's on the trophy. But a word on Arsenal's organisation, A-class. And that is a theme that runs through a lot of these clubs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Looking at City, though, not a bad season when you win the Cup double, but you've got to fear slightly. Oh, look, they're not going to go way down the table, but you have to feel slightly for them. No Pep. Bernardo Silva, absolutely, for me, the key player in their team, one of the key players in the league. Yeah. And without him, they're not going to be the same team.
Losing the manager, off-field stuff that could be coming on top fairly soon. So it's going to be an interesting time for City, isn't it?
Yeah, again, they're going to be in the conversation. If it's Maresca, then you feel for him, because I think that the guy after the guy, whether that be, Brian Clough, Sir Alex Ferguson, any of the great managers, it's a very, very difficult thing to be able to do. And I think that whoever the next manager of Manchester City is needs to be the anti-Pep. He needs to just come in and say, I'm not changing anything. I'm not doing anything any differently. Frank Clark actually did it. I'm not saying he's in there with Maresca or with Pep Guardiola. But Brian Clough left Nottingham Forest. They were relegated, so in a much worse position than City are. And Frank Clark just came in and said, I'm not changing anything. The genius of a manager, put all the bits into place. I just need to make sure that you're fit, that you're healthy, that you've got a system of play to adhere to. So I think that that's what's going to happen with the next coach of Manchester City. They've got money. I think the Abu Dhabi lot are not going anywhere anytime soon. So even if they do rip through 4 or 5 managers in the next 2 or 3 seasons, I think that they will find one that will end up being successful. As for the 115 charges, I echo what a lot of people said, is that this was supposed to be promised to be dealt with a long time ago. And if I'm looking at clubs further down that are sanctioned for every penny that they go over PSR, I'd be fairly angry. But in terms of Manchester City Football Club, yes, it'll be turbulent times, probably reminiscent of the sort of Souness era at Liverpool, potentially, when he came in and he ripped things up very quickly. And he brought in players and you thought, crikey, he's not a Liverpool player. Manchester City really need to avoid that. Just keep adding little bits as they go on. They're always going to be a catch as a club. And I think that they may not win the same amount of titles, Premier Leagues, in the next 5 or 6 years, but they undoubtedly will be in the top 2 or 3 clubs.
We're going to talk Manchester United next. We've got plenty of teams to get through. We're going to try and go game by game through the Premier League. And get, sorry?
Team by team, you said game by game.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
I imagine that would be for about a month. That's a lot to ask. Anyway, let's take you back now to August the 23rd. It was anyway. We won't do that.
No, don't.
Stan Collimore's with us. We'll keep chatting very, very short. Love to hear from you this afternoon. You want to get in touch on your team season? How you feeling about life going forward? 03717 223344 talksport.com/H&J. Text to 81089. Tweet to TSH&J. We've got live football, of course, this afternoon. Salford versus Notts County, the League Two playoff final at Wembley. The Moose will join us later on and talk a bit of West Ham. We are here with Toolstation. You'll get 10% off their Toolstation Trade Club on all electrical and lighting products when you buy cable and flexes. First stop, Toolstation.
Talking about 2-3 players, right? And I get that Spurs miss out.
But that's the track record.
There's plenty of players out there
over the many
not
years.
lads from Middlesbrough who come off the bench in the playoff final. Like, do me.
Well, he was injured.
No,
He's
but
been the best player in the Championship this season.
Yeah, I don't want to sign Championship players. Spurs don't need to sign Championship players. We've got Championship players. They've shown that. We've got Championship players.
Do you? I understand what you're saying. Hayden Hackney, I think, would be a good signing. He's been brilliant this season. But I understand what you're saying about actually you need to aim bigger than that on top of the Hayden Hackneys and that. But do you trust? Do you trust the owners enough?
No, I don't trust the owners.
I don't think it's down to the owners anymore. I think De Zerbi's got full control. I think he will be the one who's picking the players.
They still got to dip their hand in the pockets.
Well,
they've got to okay.
They've
got to sign off the contracts.
When they got rid of Daniel Levy, saying that they're going to spend money.
But that's my point.
Everyone was going to change the narrative, and it was sporting success that they were.
And then what happened in January? They went and sold. They went and sold Brennan Johnson for 30 mil. Brought in Conor Gallagher for 30 mil.
Net zero spend.
Well, it was net 12 with Sousa as well, but. You know,
first team.
Exactly. My point is, and that's my point. So summer coming up, this is Tottenham Hotspur, and you can't get the Champions League players. It's not going to happen. But you can still attract with those big wages.
But it's about clever
Alex Scott. They're the type of player.
Well, he came from the Championship.
Yeah, I know, but he's been in Bournemouth and he's top.
No, but they bought him from the Championship.
Yeah, but he's been playing in the Premier League.
Semenyo came. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you can be clever with your recruitment. Antoine Semenyo came from the Championship. Adam Wharton.
No,
but the point is about to win a European final.
Now.
Why not?
Because I don't want them. We've got to sign the Premier League players who are playing in the Premier League who have been top draw.
The point, no.
Championship.
I think you're being a snob.
The point Jamie's making,
upgrading the squad now from where it is. They've had those middle-ranking signings. They need polish to make them get over the line and pull them out of the situation they're in. Here's a question for you.
Michael Elise's done all right coming out of the Championship.
Go back to.
Who did you go to? Went to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And then went to Bayern Munich.
Crystal Palace finished above you. They're in a European final.
Yeah, but you don't sign. We don't need players from the Championship.
You do.
Rookie. No, we don't.
You need a rebuild.
We don't need a rebuild from the Championship.
You don't need big time Charlies coming.
Hawksbee and Jacobs Weekend Football Roundup on talkSPORT with Snickers. You're off your game when you're hungry. It's a sign for Snickers.
Yes, we're looking about the weekend's football action with Snickers and how it relates to the season overall. We're going to try and go team by team through the Premier League. And we kick off, United we're talking now, in third place. But maybe a bit of trepidation among Manchester United fans. I mean, having given the job to somebody who was a caretaker manager, they've been here before. Is going to have Europe to contend with. I'm sure they'll deepen the squad. But how are you feeling about what they've achieved and the way forward for them, Stan?
It's going to be the likes of Jason Wilcox now. He's going to come into his own. People in the recruitment department, communication with Michael Carrick. We know the job that Michael Carrick's done. Personally, I wouldn't have had him in the manager of the season, especially at the expense of somebody like Unai Emery that's actually done it over a full season. But Manchester United can always recruit players. And the biggest recruiter of all as a player is to play in the Champions League. So I think that they'll get their primary targets. It's how he's going to bed them into the team, and it's how they're going to do competing in both Europe and in the Premier League. I think they'll be a top 5 team in the next couple of years, and a lot's going to depend on who they buy. But I don't automatically see Manchester United stabilising the ship this year and being a title contender next.
Yeah, good season for them, though, especially when they were so poor under Amorim. So they've got to be happy with the way it goes. Now we need to move on to your beloved Villa. I mean, what a season that was. And yesterday, to go to City, having won that cup and all the celebrations, and Pep's last day and all that, and to go and win at City, that was some achievement, I thought.
Yeah, it was, and I think it was, the brakes were off. Everybody had enjoyed the fact that they got into the top 5 at the very least. The Europa League final was fantastic. But, the performances against Nottingham Forest at Villa Park, Liverpool at Villa Park, Freiburg in the final, and yesterday, I have questioned Villa players' mentality as a team because we lost against an Olympiacos team that weren't better than us over in a semi-final, a Crystal Palace team where we just didn't turn up, and there was a massive question mark about the mentality of players to get over the line. So I think that's been fair criticism. And, of course, the start to the season where Villa didn't win for the first 5 or 6 games. And even Unai Emery said, I don't know which way this is going to go. But in terms of moving a club forward, I go back to the organisational thing, is that the owners are very good. They keep out the way. They back the club as much as they can with PSR restrictions. They're back in the Champions League. And it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see, firstly, who goes. They're probably going to have to sell a Morgan Rogers, I would imagine, but who they bring in, because there's 1 or 2 players getting towards that peak or beyond that they're going to have to replace moving forward. But back in the Champions League, money rolls in. They've done everything they possibly can. A very good 9 out of 10 this season.
That's true. I mean, it takes the pressure off of PSR, doesn't it? I mean, all the prize money for finishing high up, and also, as you said, Champions League stamp.
Because that money they make from the Europa. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does start to balance the books a little bit more.
Yeah, and like I say, the owners have said for 2 or 3 years now they'd be quite happy to blow the doors off if there were no rules and regulations tomorrow. I think you'd find Villa not just spending high on wages, which they do, but on transfer fees. But they don't want to fall foul of the regulations of both Premier League and UEFA. So they've done everything that they possibly can. But if you're looking genuinely at the squad, John McGinn and legend that he is, and Tyrone Mings have both played for Villa in the Championship. Now, if you're looking at building a squad at Arsenal, Manchester City, Man United, Chelsea that are going to expect to have a better season next season, Liverpool, is that you're probably not going to build it with players that 4, 5, 6 years ago were playing in the Championship. So I think that for Villa now, it's going to be crucial to get the recruitment right. It hasn't always been good in terms of the players that they've brought in. Some have come in and gone away very, very quickly. So 2 or 3 players, I think, to freshen the squad up is always the bare minimum, really, to push a team forward. And hopefully there's 1 or 2, where Villa have pushed the boat out and people say, yeah, they're now spending the rewards of 2 or 3 very, very good seasons.
An interesting summer for Liverpool, your old club, Stan. I mean, it did feel like, kind of end of an era with Salah and Robertson and stuff.
I thought a pretty poor season, really, for Liverpool.
Yeah.
I know there were lots of good reasons for it, but in the end, you have to say, finishing 25 points behind Arsenal is not great.
And it looks like Slot is staying, doesn't it?
Yes, he will stay. I don't think Liverpool are a knee-jerk club in terms of ripping through 4 or 5 managers very quickly. And I think that FSG have given tacit support to a manager that, I don't buy all of this from Liverpool fans and they say it was Klopp that won the league and Slot just had to slot in and win it. It doesn't work like that. It's a very, very difficult league to win. But I also do take on board the fact that when I've asked Liverpool fans during the season, what are their thoughts, and they say this is the worst football for 30 years. Can't see the identity, can't see the patterns of play. There have obviously been issues around Mo Salah. I do think, for example, that Wirtz, Ekitike and Isak, if they're all fit and firing in pre-season, will massively benefit from Mo Salah's departure, because there is such a thing in a football dressing room as top man syndrome. And I think that two of those players that were bought for British transfer records need to be able to spread their wings in their own right. And that was very difficult with Mo Salah still being at the club. So I would expect that to be a positive. But it's really simple for Liverpool. They have the season that they had this year and play the way that they did, and they'll be looking for a new manager this time next year. It's that simple.
Yeah, and Ekitike, you'd be surprised if you see him before winter next year.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think he's going to be ready in September.
A bad injury. So Bournemouth, because Villa didn't have the decency to finish fifth, they don't get Champions League football, but I'm sure they're chuffed with Europa League football. It's a great way for Iraola to sign off for them. The thing is, they lose players, they'll lose the manager, but the foundations are so good at the club, their recruitment, their structure.
You have to look traditionally at the way teams who are not used to Thursday, Sunday football have gone, and traditionally they find it difficult. You look at Palace this year, they ended up 15th. Because,
I know. There'll be a payoff. I mean, if they can balance the two and lose their manager and maybe lose a couple of players, which is always possible, I mean, it is pretty amazing achievement, though, isn't it?
Yeah, great man. He's got nothing but respect for what Bournemouth have done. Whenever I speak about football organisations, and again, at the top of the show, we talked about, good owners, good ownership, an organisation with foresight. Bournemouth don't just know who the next man is. They probably know the 2 or 3 down the line their ideal targets are. £257 million in sales, and it just hasn't made a dent on them whatsoever. You do get to a point, though, whereby you play in, the success starts to bite. I hope it doesn't with Bournemouth, and we're not talking about a club a year or 2 years down the line that have been sucked into a sort of relegation scrap or vortex on the basis of that success, because you want to reward success. What they've got to do now is very, very simple. Flesh out the squad. They've obviously got an A-class, triple A-class recruitment department. And it's now about getting in as many players that can come in and do a job in the Europa League on a Thursday and then going back and playing an FA Cup game or playing a Premier League game, as it is about, we're bringing this guy in at £15 million in the hope of selling him for £60 million down the line. If they do that, they can manage both. If they don't, then, like I say, 2 or 3 years' time, the Premier League, in how unforgiving it is, and playing Europe can really hurt you.
Another team we've got to find that balance of Sunderland. We're going to be chatting about them after the news headlines. Stan Collymore's with us. We're going team by team through the Premier League season.
Hawksbee and Jacobs Weekend Football Roundup on talkSPORT with Snickers. You're off your game when you're hungry. Grab a Snickers.
Lots of upheaval at your old club, West Ham United, as well. What's the first thing that they have to get right before the start of next season? Is it in the dugout?
No, it's players. I think recruitment's been the biggest reason why they've been relegated. I think it's obvious when you look at the squad in general, but certainly the signings from last summer, you think of the signings that certainly haven't worked. Fulkrug came and went, a player that was never suited to the way that West Ham play anyway. Mavropanos has got better, but wasn't very good. Todibo hasn't worked. Where are the midfield players? Again, you look at the squad list, they've got 3 midfield players really to choose from in terms of Premier League quality. So obviously the start of the season was terrible for them, and they've been a bit better. But when your manager looks to the starting 11 then looks to the bench, what are you able to bring on? It is the big difference with players coming back, Tottenham had players they could call upon that I think have still capable in the Premier League. I don't think West Ham have that.
Yeah. Well, how did you feel as a former West Ham United player, learning, as Scott did this morning, that Jean-Claire Todibo pretty much refused to play in yesterday's game because of what happened at Newcastle?
I mean, if that's true, it's disgraceful. Of course it is. There's no way you shouldn't want to be part of saving the club from relegation. You could tell how angry he was. He blanked the manager at St James's Park when he was brought off. He was so poor in the game anyway. Should really have been looking inwardly at himself, not the fact it was him that was taken off. You just hope that sort of attitude. I don't think that's the norm. I think there is a harmonious dressing room
because they've been fighting together,
yes, they have,
haven't they? Since
exactly.
they lost Paqueta in February.
You can question some of the manager's decisions in terms of the starting 11 and the system. Certainly at Newcastle, you can talk about maybe the odd really bad performance. You can't have a go at the players for a lack of effort and desire. Those that have been playing, I think I've very much seen that, and I thought that was going to be enough to keep them in the Premier League.
Aguero, Solskjaer, Deeney. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing to beat mid-table Plymouth Argyle in front of their own fans and hope their relegation rival Scarborough didn't win against Peterborough at home. The game at the McCain Stadium finished 1-1, and with the same scoreline at Brunton Park deep into injury time, Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure. However, Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed.
Hawksbee Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Stan Collymore is with us. We're going to go for every team in the Premier League. We reached Sunderland in 7th. Amazing season for them. And the kind of blueprint, bringing in 15 new players and spending 160 odd million quid, Stan. We've seen clubs try that in the past when they've come up and we say, I brought in too many players, the manager couldn't cope, it was blah. But it worked, and it has worked for them, hasn't it?
It's the biggest gamble. Forest did it, if you remember, under Steve Cooper. And I think that I'm lucky in the fact that I speak to a lot of coaches and a lot of managers, and a lot of managers will always say, and ask them the question, what is the optimum number to bring into your dressing room in the summertime? And they say 2 or 3, because it's enough to freshen things up. It's enough to say to the dressing room, we're moving forward. We brought in a better player in this position. It's challenging the striker, it's challenging the goalkeeper, or challenging your main central defender. But 15 is remarkable. And from a position of course, doing it late in the day when other clubs have done their business. Sunderland's, the way that they've played this season, particularly the home form early, but saw them at Villa Park, and aggressive, front foot. Everybody worked their socks off for the team. They got back into shape very quickly. Brobby, a real nuisance of a centre forward. You would hate to play against him because he'll run you into channels and he'll twist you and he'll turn you. And with Lefay just behind him and Craig Hume, that everything is about spirit, but don't be under any illusion that they haven't got quality. And now I think that they're in the Europa League. Obviously, Villa have had 3, 4, 5 years of European football. And it might be going out on a limb to say this, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Sunderland didn't get to the last knockings of the Europa League next season. Who on earth is going to want to go and play at an absolutely rammed Stadium of Light, with players that are chasing, harrying, hassling, and that are more than capable of hitting you on the counter-attack on away days? So an amazing season. I think that for me, with Aston Villa, literally pound for pound, probably the best two Premier League teams this season. And I wish them all the success next season, because to see a Sunderland doing well is really good for, obviously, the North East and for English football generally. One of the biggest clubs in the country having their day in the sun. Absolutely love it.
On to Brighton then. And it wasn't that long ago that people were saying sort of Ursula was in trouble. They weren't enjoying the football there. People were a bit ho-hum about it. But they put that little run together and they've ended up with Europe.
They blew it in the final day, though.
Yes.
They should have been in the Europa. Excuse me.
I do wonder, though, whether they'll be disappointed generally with 8th. I mean, if you're looking around them, and particularly Sunderland's efforts and Bournemouth, I mean, the 3 Bs for me, again, I always use as the 3 examples in the Premier League of great organisations: Bournemouth, Brighton and Brentford. They do all of the stuff off the pitch. Why? Because they know that they're going to be outspent. They're going to have, they're dealing against clubs that have got networks of scouts and recruitment people across the world, and they've got huge amounts of money when you're talking about Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, Man United and Liverpool. So they've had to do it. It's been by design to know what manager's going to come next, what kind of player profile they want. But I wonder whether Tony Bloom and the staff there will be mildly disappointed that it's Conference League, because I think that the next step in their progress, if you're asking fans, you say, would Brighton give it a really good go in the Europa League? And I think that, again, they would. They've got the Conference League. I don't think there's any excuse for any English Premier League team to not win it.
Really. Yeah,
exactly that. And that gives you a big platform to then move on to bigger and better things and to bring in players. But mildly disappointed with Brighton this season, not because of the ability or the manager, because they've on their day, they're one of those teams that you just don't want to face. They can football you to death. Very good team, very good coach. It's going to go on to bigger and better things in the next 10, 15 years. But I think that 8th for them is just below par for what's been set up over the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Brentford. Brentford, who have missed out on Europe. I've seen 1 or 2 Brentford fans saying that they're not too upset about that. They wonder if they've got the depth for twice a week.
Fans I go with a bit disappointed.
That they didn't make it. I mean, it would have been something to look forward to.
Very good season, though, considering at the start of it, everybody wrote them off. So that's a good season for Brentford.
I had them, when Keith Andrews came in, I always remember Martin O'Neill's comments about him that were quite stinging. So within the football fraternity, a lot of people were like, Keith Andrews is coming. What makes him think? I know he'd been at Brentford in several roles, but I think he's spoken very well. I think he, again, is the beneficiary. Spoke to Matthew Benham a couple of times, had a coffee with him over the last 2 or 3 years. Really nice bloke, like his outlook on sport generally is that I don't think they'll be... Of course, you want to play European football as a player and as a club, but I think that a free hit at it next year, and if they get the recruitment right, there's no reason why Brentford, with a manager that now understands the last 12 months, the difference between being a manager and being a coach or a technical coach, and can take them on to better things. Fantastic season. We are going to get to the stage, chaps, at some stage in the next 20, 30 years where probably every Premier League club's going to get European football. So if you'd have said to any club 9th, you're just slightly disappointed to not be in it. I think a lot of coaches would also say, we've got to do better and try to get into those positions 5, 6 and 7. Very solid season. Delighted for Keith Andrews. Put a lot of doubters in their place.
Chelsea, I think.
Next.
Andy just wanted the season over. It's one of those, with a new manager coming in, there's more reason to be optimistic, but it's not been a good season for them, and maybe the methods of the people in charge of the club have been found out.
All I'd say is that they have to get it right next season, otherwise they will be doomed to be eventually relegated.
You think so?
Because the way they run this club, these people, they know they've made massive errors, and they've got to change the way.
It's just learning from them, isn't it?
And they've got to give Alonso a chance. Even if he loses his first 10 games, back him. That's what I'm saying. If they don't back him, then we're doomed forever.
Do you see bright things ahead for Chelsea, or are you a bit doomsday like Andy there?
I think they're talented. I mean, crikey, they were basically, the premise was simple. Let's hoover up all of the talented under 23s, under 22s, under 21s around Europe and mould them into the team. And it's only as much of a gamble as I mentioned to you about Forest doing, 20, 30 players coming in 3-4 years ago, or what Sunderland have done under very different circumstances, is that you bring a group of players together and you hope that they're going to work. Dare I say, though, Andy, Villa Park aside, when they absolutely dismantled us, and I thought that Garnacho was the second coming with his performance on that day, as was Joe Pedro, was fantastic. Reece James was fantastic on the night. I think that they lack spirit, and I think that they lack... Whereas we look at clubs like Sunderland and say, well, you have to lean heavily on spirit, roll your sleeves up, work hard. I'm not convinced that Chelsea have got that in enough positions. And that's going to be something that's got to be addressed. They've got to have a leader on the pitch to rally around. And there's got to be 5 or 6 that, other than just being extraordinarily talented footballers, of which we know Chelsea have got lots, is that they've got to show that doggedness and that resilience that, for example, a lot of the Arsenal players have shown this season, if they're going to get anywhere near the big trophies.
Let's move on to Fulham then, before we bring you to travel. We don't know what's going on with Marco Silva. I mean, what have you made of their season?
I think average. I saw the Fulham account yesterday with a picture of Marco Silva and genius. There's no genius in finishing 11th in the Premier League. Chelsea above them have had a poor season. Newcastle below them have had a poor season. And then you're looking, further down. Obviously, your lot, Tottenham. You'd hope it was a unicorn season in the grand scheme of perhaps the next 10 years. But I think there was a massive opportunity for Fulham to do what Sunderland have done. And again, on their day, without a doubt, that playing staff has experience throughout the team. It can get the ball down and play. Marco Silva, yes, can deploy several different systems. I think 11th. I think that if they're doing a key performance indicator sit down with the management, instead of sort of blowing smoke rings around Marco Silva, I think that 1 or 2 in the board might say, could we and should we have been where Sunderland were? And I think that it's that inconsistency that's the difference between 7th and 11th. So they've done okay, but like I say, I saw the Fulham Twitter feed. Maybe they're just doing everything they can to try and keep their manager, but genius is a little bit strong, I would suggest.
Stan Collymore with us. We've still got 8 teams to squeeze in, so we'll do our best to do that. We're going to be talking Tottenham in a bit more detail with a journalist who was told he was too negative and was called in at the press conference after the win over Everton yesterday. Tom Ornott from The Times joins us. So that's all to come. We're here, of course, with our good friends at Tool Station. First stop, Tool Station.
Just explain what the story is.
Well, basically, Romero's injured. He can't play. Now, Spurs obviously played the biggest game of the season on Sunday. River Plate are playing against his former team on the last day of the season as well. Both teams can win the league, all right? His former club, that one that he grew up with. I don't know I can't remember the name. Anyway, they kick off at 7 on Sunday. He's gone to Argentina to watch the game instead of Spurs against Everton. Now that for me, that the club captain not there on the final day of the season. If that doesn't sum up Spurs right there, that is an absolute joke. Now, there might be an argument to say he's injured, he's gone out to Argentina to get treatment because of the World Cup.
I don't care.
No, I'm the same. The club captain has to be at the final game of the season. Why is the club captain not at the final day of the season? He's going to watch River play. That is outrageous. Outrageous.
Yeah.
That is a sackable offence.
Yeah,
and whoever's allowed that to happen, whether it's come from the top or Roberto De Zerbi, they should be ashamed of themselves. It sums up Tottenham in every aspect. That is allowed to happen. Like, if he don't want to be there, fine. No, you won't want to be there.
No, it's not fine.
No, it's not
No,
fine.
that's not fine.
But no, I get that. But in terms of he don't want to be at the club, he wants out, right? Get that. But his teammates will want Romero around the dressing room. His teammates, the people that he's played around, the people that he's played alongside. You know, he's been in the trenches with, and he's decided to go and watch River play on the last day of the season. It's disgusting.
No,
It's a joke.
I am absolutely. When Ryan told me this, I looked at him and had to gaze in his eyes. I said, "What are you talking about?" I'm thinking, what game is that day? Can he get back from Argentina? Why is he doing that anyway? No, he's going to miss one.
Yeah, they kick off 7:30 on Sunday.
Well, that is.
It's outrageous, mate. It's outrageous.
Maybe he knows what's happening. Maybe he knows you're going to play in Championship football, and he's thinking, do you know what? Right, I know where we're going. I'd rather go and watch a decent.
That's not the point. That's not the point.
And Spurs.
Stan Collingwood with us. We've still got a lot of teams to hoover up in the next 10 minutes or so. Stan, Newcastle, you kind of touched on, as you said, a disappointing season for them, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think this would have been the story if it wasn't for your lot, Paul, to be honest. I think that Newcastle had a desperately poor season, and Eddie Howe's gone from the man that took the League Cup and moving forward into a great new European dawn to being a very, very disappointing season. I went up to St James's Park with Villa, up in that Leazy's, that top corner Leazy's end, and I was incredibly surprised at how little energy they had, to be honest. If that's been the hallmark of Newcastle's season, that won't go down well for much longer. I think he'll survive this summer. There's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes. Will the Saudis continue to pump money in? Will other people come in? Yada, yada, yada. But a very disappointing season for Newcastle United. And again, like Arne Slot, if Eddie Howe's in this position anywhere near towards the end of next season, I think he'll be relieved of his job.
I agree with that.
Yeah, going to see what happens there. Everton.
It all looked so promising, but they did fall away a bit, didn't they?
Absolutely. Those last, they didn't get a win. Was it last 7? They just really fell away. And David Moyes said yesterday how upset he was about the way it had unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a manager, there isn't a better man to take a big club that, moving into a new stadium, a sort of relatively fractured sort of, again, when you look at the Everton playing staff, you think, well, what's the style of play? What are they trying to achieve here? They've also got some cracking players. I like Garner, obviously, in particular, who's a fantastic player. But I think that with David Moyes, he takes the club up, he dusts them off, and from top to bottom, he moves them up and moves them forward. So 13th, he'll be disappointed with, particularly in the last 3 or 4 games where there was European football on offer. And I think that, you know, where Sunderland have been, for example, I think that might have been perhaps a little bit flattering for Everton to be in that position. But they've got a very good manager who we all know very well. We know the kind of player profile he's going to bring in, hardworking, honest and diligent. And if he does that, then when you're looking at the positions 7 to 8, 9, 10 in the Premier League, with a full season next season, they've obviously been in the stadium a little while now. I would expect them to be competing for the minor European spots. But there's no doubt that the last 5, 6, 7 games have been very, very disappointing for David Moyes, and his recruitment is now going to be really important in the summertime.
Leeds season really was all about that change in fortunes and that change in formation as well, which kind of kick-started a season that, you know, they looked like they were in real trouble, didn't they, back in November?
Yeah, but the primary objective, I mean, you know, when you've got a Bournemouth or a Brighton, it's no disrespect to them, Bournemouth, Brighton and Brentford, particularly Bournemouth and Brentford, is there's almost a kind of, we're happy to be here, and the club hasn't got neither of those clubs have got 50, 60, 70,000 seater stadiums and the whole expectation of a global supporter base. Leeds United have. So that's a very different thing that drives a lot of your season. There's a lot of pressure when it's a Villa or a Newcastle or a Leeds United that, with the greatest respect to the likes of Bournemouth and Brighton, they don't have. So for a manager that's been relegated and promoted and relegated and promoted, he's broke his own glass ceiling. So I'm fascinated. The owners have obviously, you know, got money. They've got some very talented players in there. Really like Ampadu. Aronson, I think, has had a very good season. I think a few Leeds fans weren't sure about him over the piece. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has found a home and he's found fitness. Is that they can look forward to adding 1 or 2 players and going, dare we get into Europe next season? And a European adventure, ask Sunderland this time next year, all of a sudden puts you in the shop window for better players. People see your stadium full, Elland Road, the history of the club all starts being brought up. So I'm delighted for Daniel Farke, because a lot of people would have looked at it and gone, yeah, he's a guy that gets you up, but he's also a guy that can get you relegated. So to stay up really was the important one this season.
Whenever I've seen them, I've always thought Ampadu has been a tremendous player for them.
Yeah, good business.
Fantastic. I mean, if Villa are knocking around and looking around, I mean, not saying there are any bargains these days, but he'd be the kind of Aston Villa player profile, particularly in the PSR era, where they can't go out and buy players for 60, 70, 80 million. They're going to have to be a little bit more diligent. Not trying to buy your player from your Leeds United, but if you are selling him, we'll take him from you.
Yeah, that's hands off, the Leeds fans are shouting at their radio.
Come on, let's get these last...
Yeah, they're squeezing in. Palace got a European final just around the corner. Glasner's off. It's going to be an interesting summer, see who comes in next for them. But as Andy said, it's come at a cost, 15th.
Yeah, and they will now know that they've got to build a squad if they want to be a, you know, I would hope that they win the Europa Conference League. Again, that puts them in a better position to be able to get players and bumps them up in terms of competition next year. But it's about the squad. And unfortunately, you know, clubs that are in the bottom half of the table for a long time, they do the calculations and don't push the boat out. Crystal Palace have got to push the boat out and flesh the squad out to make it as good as what we know is a very, very good first 11.
Forest.
They've got to find a manager as well.
That's true, yeah. We did talk about Forest a little bit earlier and kind of in relation to Villa. But just a quick one then on Forest this season and where they go from here.
Equally as good a squad as Aston Villa as the first 11. Better squad in terms of depth than Aston Villa, the club that's just finished fourth and won the Europa League. Ownership. When you have a guy that comes in and says, one day it's Tuesday and one day it's Thursday, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, I'm going to sack this manager, I'm going to bring this one in, welcome to the ride. Forest fans know that. I go to Nottingham a lot and speak a lot in Nottingham, is that they're at the whim of one man. That might take them to a Champions League in 3 years or the Championship in 3 years. Take your pick.
Interesting. We won't dwell too long on Spurs because we are going to talk to Tom Allnut later on, but just a kind of bite-sized take on their season, Stam.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Chelsea, are the characters, are the players that are willing to roll their sleeves up for the cause. For Tottenham Hotspur, do they get how big the club is? Do they get the the desire of the club to be a challenger. I don't think they do. And I think that you can have one or two. Look, I'm a massive fan of football teams having the luxury player and the club man. You know, the balance of a football club is very important. We don't want 11 Roy Keanes and we don't want, 11 Eric Cantonars. But I think that with Tottenham, the balance in terms of players that really wanted to be there and fight and scratch and bite for the football club was weighed in the incorrect way. So the manager and the owners have got to now look at buying 3 or 4 players that are going to have Tottenham Hotspur DNA at heart, because that's 2 seasons now that they've had really poor seasons. Yeah. A third one, you could end up going down, and then it becomes all bets are off. Financially, it becomes a catastrophe. So they need players that are going to, Andy Robertson is apparently going to go to Spurs. Exactly the kind of clubman that walks in there with standards that says, no, this is the way that we do things, and this is the way that we do things every single week.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine next season.
Well, the exec chairman has issued a statement, but, a lot of cynicism among the fan base to it. Talk is cheap, so I think the Tottenham fans have been promised similar things.
You lose any team losing all their creative players is going to struggle.
Yeah. Look, they were butchered by injuries, but were onwards and upwards. West Ham, tougher for them. Could be a bit of a fire sale now. Some key players. There's all sorts of stuff going on and off the field. Looks like Nuno's going to go today. I suppose really the question is that should they have got in this situation, and can they bounce back, Stan?
Now, again, when you've got an ownership that doesn't do their recruitment of the main job, the men's first team head coach, and you go through 3 or 4, every one of those 3 or 4, whether Lopetegui, Graham Potter, Nuno, they all have different systems. So they all want different players. So you end up with a playing staff of 20 players, of which probably half of them are used to playing one way and half the other. So then you're having to do that in the most difficult league in the world to be able to try and get a coherent system of play. And it was just too late. I mean, they won a couple of games in the last 5, which gave them a little bit of hope. You can walk away in the summertime now and say, we won our last game against Leeds. These are now the standards that you need to set for next season, etc., etc. But I go back to this fundamental thing, Paul and Andy. The teams that have massively underachieved, it is usually an individual or individuals at the top of the organisation that are not fit for purpose, and that trickles down into the whole way that the club is run and the way that ultimately the team plays.
So Burnley and Wolves, just very quickly on Burnley, if they get Craig Bellamy, that would be quite exciting for them. I don't know, the Burnley fans have yo-yoed a little bit, and that's quite a lucrative thing to do, but I mean, did you have any expectation of them staying up at the start of the season, Stan?
No, not really. But, I thought that Sunderland and Leeds might struggle. So, everybody has an equal chance if you get things right. I think that for Burnley, it's going to be show us your ambition. Have a squad that you're going to build that is going to stay, that you've got a 5-year plan to stay in the Premier League. Not like some clubs, and I think off the top of my head, Norwich City, I think of West Bromwich Albion, that had those years where we'll take the money, go back down, be the best team in the Championship, go back up, not compete, go back down, but we're a wealthy club, is that can be frittered away very quickly. I look at Wolverhampton Wanderers now, and they've had a lot of ownership issues about funding and lack of ambition, number of managers. I think that if we're looking at one club that has the ability on any given day, a team that you could put in the Championship, and if they've got all the key ingredients of roll your sleeves up, work for the club, then Wolverhampton Wanderers would be my favourites to come back up, because I still think there are a lot of issues for West Ham. But for Burnley, it's simple. The next time you come up, have a little bit of adventure and say, we're going to spend money now to try and stay in this division for 4, 5 or 6 years. And I think there are still too many teams that come up, take the money, go back down, win the Championship at 100 points, and that's enough for them. You've got to have some adventure and some purpose and look beyond the horizons of the next 2 or 3 years and have a 4 or 5 year plan.
And finally on Wolves, Dan, you've touched on them there. You do feel Rob Edwards is going to have to make a good start, because a lot of the fan base are pretty upset with him. He's become a bit of a lightning rod for, and the ownership get a fair bit.
He did all right, got them playing better.
But, a lot of Wolves fans are not happy with him, so you kind of feel he's going to have to make a decent start next season.
Yeah, and I think that if they don't, I think they'll change things very quickly, because the one thing about Wolves, this team, is I think they've got ability. I've said it all through the season. In terms of their position to what they can do on any given day. You remember they had that little, when Rob came in, is that they had that little bit of a lift and they were starting to give teams a game and playing through the lines and being very aggressive, and they had lots of youth in the team. All of those key ingredients will serve Wolverhampton Wanderers well, but Rob has now been used to losing at the tail end of the season. So I think that the ownership, Fosun, will be looking at it and say, we'll give him to September, October, and if it doesn't change, then we'll go and get somebody else in. But this Wolverhampton Wanderers team has the ability in the core components to be able to go back up at the first attempt and buy some. It's just whether the managerial ingredients and Rob gets the time to be able to do that. But I think that out of the three that have been relegated, Wolves, for me, have all of the ingredients available to them to be able to come back at the first attempt. The other two, for very different reasons, it's going to be very difficult.
Let's wrap up the Falls panel, our prediction league we do every Friday. Champions League football for the commentators.
Oh, well done.
Well done to them. They won on 78 points. Stan, you're in the Europa League. You finish.
We'll take that. Win it next year.
6 points adrift. I'm in the Conference League. I finished on 69. Then Andy Jacobs on 66.
Yeah, I'm firing my sporting directors.
Are you really?
All 5 of them. They're useless.
The talkSPORT listeners have applied for re-election. So, they finished bottom, but there we are. Stan, thanks for all your efforts throughout the season. We love chatting to you on a Friday.
Yeah, thanks, Stan.
We know you're going to be over in the States for the World Cup. If our time slots allow, it'll be nice to catch up with you while you're over there. Yeah, nice.
Come on, England.
All the best, Stan. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Stan.
There's Stan Collymore, their former Liverpool Villa and Forest striker. We're going to talk a bit more Sunderland with Gabe Turner, who was he's a big Sunderland fan, also one of the producers of Sunderland Till I Die. I wish he'd made it this season. Tom Allnut, called out by Roberto De Zerbi for being, where's the negative guy? Was called into the press conference after the win over Everton yesterday, so we'll get Tom's take on that. But the Moose joins us next. We're going to get some team news ahead of the League Two playoff final between Salford and Notts County, and we are going to talk West Ham, of course, as we have him with us. That's after the sports headlines.
When you're sitting with your squad and you're looking to pick a squad of 26, you say, how many defenders do we need? I would normally go with 8.
There's 9, isn't there? In this
There's
one?
9. And I wonder whether, mentioned earlier, question marks on Stone's fitness, James's fitness, and maybe Livramento's. Yep. 3 players has put an extra defender in his mind to cover that, which I think has been at the cost of Cole Palmer at the front end of the team looking at this.
Well, let's be ultimately clear. When you go through the squad, Livramento's played 164 minutes in the Premier League since the last international break. James has played 83 minutes of the Cup final, but not played against Spurs. He played 27 minutes off the bench against Liverpool at Anfield the week before. Stones, since the 2nd of December, has featured 4 times for Manchester City, totalling just 253 minutes of action. And Jed Spence, I mean, look, he played 70 minutes against Uruguay in the friendly on the Friday night of the last international break, but he's only started once under Roberto De Zerbi. So it's not as if everybody in that back line is playing regular football.
I guess you can look at that 2 ways. You could say there's a risk because they've not played many minutes, or you could say actually they're coming in fresher than some of the players because they've not played so many minutes. Looking at your face, Stuart, you think they should have had a lot more minutes under their belt.
I think people are a little bit deluded with this word fresh. Listen, I'm fresh. I ain't played for 20 years. Don't make me a better player, you know? I think it's very, very misleading. People say being fresh. I like to get in a routine, a rhythm, 90 minutes, going to major tournaments. I'm sure Gab's the same. If you said to him, like, have a month off and then deliver, well, he'd probably take that. I'm wrong individual, sorry, but most people, most normal human beings need the consistency of playing. And this fresh, it's a red herring. Honestly, it really is. You're telling me leave me out and don't play me a great deal since the 2nd of December in John Stones is going to be helpful this summer? I don't see it.
And he has a history of picking up injuries. Didn't he pull out the last squad injured at the last minute?
He did, but the other thing to mention is that he always seems to be available for England, especially at major tournaments, and he has managed to do that regularly.
Football fans all have stadiums we love, but do any of us have a pitch that we love? It might sound like an odd question, but pitches can be different sizes with big consequences. Why is that? And what are the actual rules? Back when association football started, pitches could be up to 100 metres wide and 200 metres long. That's longer than Ellen Road. Not the pitch, the stadium. Anyway, UEFA wanted a standard across Europe for international matches, which became 105 metres long and 68 metres wide. But some clubs had been rebels, not intentionally, but because of the stadiums. Take Highbury, for example. It was 5 metres shorter and a metre narrower, meaning away sides had a challenge to adjust. White Hart Lane was exactly the same. And actually, when Spurs temporarily moved to Wembley, they asked the FA to shorten the pitch. The FA, very offended by the sacrilegious suggestion, said no, which in fairness could have actually benefited Tottenham because when they moved into their shiny new stadium, the pitch was exactly the same size as Wembley's. Today, Forest Pitch at the City Ground is a big one. It's 2 metres wider than any other pitch in the Premier League. But the smallest of all, Craven Cottage, just 100 metres long and 65 wide. No excuse for not tracking your man. There are a couple of crazy outliers in Europe too. At Napoli's home ground, the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, the pitch is a whopping 110 metres long. At least they don't play on a slope like Newcastle do. There's a 2-metre incline on the pitch at St James's Park. And don't get me started on the old pitch at Yeovil too. It used to be a slant of 2 metres corner to corner and across the halfway line. So UEFA have their standards. So do the FA, but they do give pitches in England some wiggle room. Pitches can be anywhere between 90 and 120 metres long and between 45 and 90 metres wide. I mean, the rules state you can't have a square pitch, but in theory you could have one that's 91 metres long and 90 wide. Imagine rocking up to play a Sunday League game and the pitch is basically a square. So there are rules and regulations on sizes, with a UEFA standard that roughly everyone follows. But as we all know, size doesn't matter, does it?
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, where in the second hour we will be joined by the journalist. It was told he was too negative by Roberto De Zerbi. It was all pretty good-humoured, understandably, after they stayed up yesterday. But Tom Allnut writes for the Times on Spurs and is part of the Tottenham Way podcast as well. We're also going to be chatting to Gabe Turner, one of the producers of Sunderland Till I Die. He's a massive Sunderland fan, see what he's made of the season and getting into Europe. But first, we have some live football for you. Salford versus Notts County League 2 playoff at Wembley in the heat of Wembley. Joining us now with a bit of team news ahead of a West Ham chat, it is Ian Abrahams. Good afternoon, Moose.
Yeah, good afternoon from Wembley Stadium, which should see temperatures of 100 degrees or more this afternoon. I can tell you, I've been down pitch side this morning. It is absolutely roasting down there. This will be way more than just an 11-a-side game. Every substitute possible will be used today. The team news is pretty simple. Silver make one change, and Mai is out injured, so in comes Longello for them. Otherwise, it's the team that beat Grimsby be in the semi-final. For Notts County, they do stick with exactly the same side that got past Chesterfield in their semi-final. Belshaw in goal is a Notts County fan. His dad is a season ticket holder, and he never thought he'd play for the club till he joined them back in January. He's in goal today. McDonald at centre-half, played over 400 games, and Jody Jones was among those that won here 3 years ago in the playoff final against Chesterfield. We start at 3, live on talkSPORT 2.
Moose, commiserations. I take no pleasure from West Ham's demise, only that it meant we didn't go. But for the grace of God and all that, there was nothing really between our two teams. So, and I'll miss the derby. So, it looks like Nuno's going. Are you supportive of that? Would you have wanted him to go, or are you a bit disappointed?
First of all, I'm glad to hear you didn't celebrate Spurs staying up, because I think any Spurs fan that celebrated Spurs staying up would have been absolutely mad yesterday, because both sides, as you say, have had the most wretched of seasons. And yeah, I mean, it was not great to see West Ham get relegated, but I knew it as a kid back in 1978, with a team which included some proper players and some legends of the club like Billy Bonds and Trevor Brookie and Alvin Martin and Alan Devonshire. So this bunch of players, which are Tati Castellanos, who apparently wants to leave, CM8. Pablo looks like he's won a competition to play football, and most of the others, bar Jarrod Bowen and possibly Fernandez, I throw in there. They can all leave. Doesn't matter. West Ham will survive and will go again. But this is down to the ownership, who promised West Ham would have a world-class stadium. It's not. It's just a very big athletic stadium and a world-class team, which is now playing in the second tier of English football. So clearly nothing world-class about that. And the recruitment, which has been utterly hopeless over the last, I don't know, probably since we lost Marlon Harewood, Dean Ashton and alike, Bobby Zamora, some 15, 20 years ago. It's been one ridiculously poor player coming in after another, one ridiculously cheap out-of-work manager who costs nothing after another, Pellegrini, J-Lo. I thought we'd signed the pop star, not the former Spain manager. And, Graham Potter. Graham Potter had a whole 6 months free hit last season. We knew the three were going down. You could just sit there and plan for this season. I'm going back 18 months now when he joined the club. What did he do? He just sit there and play backgammon all day long and think of funny comments to say to the media people like me that questioned him. I don't know what he did, but this is on the board, it's on all these managers, and to be fair, Nuno had a chance. First two team selections were bonkers. The performance away at Wolves either showed the players didn't want to play for him or that he had no idea. Yes, latterly West Ham have improved greatly, and I think he's done as good a job as he could have done in the last 3 months, but this was all set out long before 3 months ago.
Yeah, the thing is, though, you don't go down on these decisions, but the last second one against Arsenal, that had gone differently. The week before at Brentford, where they were should have had 2 penalties, hit the woodwork 4 times. Could have been different, couldn't it? I know it's could have, should have for everybody, but, they were a touch unlucky, I think, in the end.
Yes and no. I mean, the 3-0, the lamentable performance at Wolves back in December, there's nothing lucky or unlucky about that. West Ham were just a word I can't use at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on British radio. In fact, probably can't use it any time of the day on British radio. And there have been other performances, losing at home to Forest. Long before going to Brentford 3 games in the end of the season, long before, home to Arsenal and a goal which may or may not, it only given us a point, we've still gone down by a point. People that point out that Villa bought their flip-flops and beach balls when they played Spurs don't care. It's irrelevant. West Ham and Spurs had enough games to avoid before the end of the season luck or any sort of luck coming into it, and both of them didn't manage to be good enough. The only thing was that West Ham was slightly worse than Spurs, and now we'll go back into the Championship. You know what? The Championship's got a lot to offer. It's got the chance of rebuilding, it's got the chance of people seeing some entertaining and winning football, and more importantly, it's got no VAR.
Yeah. And who would you like? I mean, there's a lot of talk about Gary O'Neill, Scott Parker. Is there anybody you favour to take over?
I know both of those gentlemen well. I would like Scott Parker because I think that he has proved before he can get teams up. He got Bournemouth promoted. He got did he get Fulham promoted? And he got obviously Burnley promoted. So been there and done it. Not that Gary hasn't. I would like to see someone with a West Ham connection. I think it always helps. I don't think I've ever can remember a former West Ham captain coming back and managing the club. But to a certain extent, you can get Pep Guardiola in tomorrow morning. If you're going to serve him up the sort of dross players that West Ham have signed over the last 10 or 15 years, and I could be here and fill your show and the next show and the show after with the number of absolute rubbish players West Ham have bought. It doesn't matter who you get in, they're never going to get West Ham promoted. So let's see some money being spent, which obviously won't probably happen because the amount of money West Ham getting will go down because they're in the Championship. And they need to get a proper manager. They need to, probably pay for a proper manager. But we'll wait and see. That's not the raison d'etre of the current board, who maybe have to have a look at themselves as well. Maybe if they start looking at themselves and then work downwards, West Ham might sort themselves out.
All right, Ian, good stuff. Good to talk to you. We'll catch up with you later.
So I'm not in a bad mood.
No, I can sense that. You're very chipper today. Look, who would blame you? Salford, Notts County, live on talkSPORT 2. Ollie Klink, your host. That's coverage underway. Ian Danter and Adrian Clark, your commentary team for the League Two playoff final in the heat of Wembley. And we'll have regular updates from the Moose once that gets underway. But some people were tipping Sunderland to go down. They were bold. They made 15 signings. They spent a lot of money, but it has paid off. They've finished 7th. They've got European football as well. So it's turned into quite the season. Gabe Turner, who produced Sunderland Till I Die, probably wish he'd taken the cameras along.
Yeah, I'm working with him on a new one for Chelsea. It's called Chelsea Till I Give Up.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's
maybe next season.
Was a little bit more
about November, I'd say.
Chelsea Till I Can't Be Bothered anymore. It doesn't have quite the gravitas. Anyway, Gabe joins us to have a chat in a few moments' time, and then later on, Graham Scott, former Premier League referee, is going to join us to reflect on the officials' big 9 months during the season. We're here, of course, with our good friends at Tool Station. If you only got time for one stop, first stop, Tool Station.
Thomas Tuchel, when it comes to naming these squads, he always gives us a headline, doesn't he? Do you remember when we were broadcasting from Ascot and he left out Jude Bellingham? Obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold has been omitted, so there is always a talking point. But I think if we'd sat down yesterday, before obviously we started getting all the news yesterday afternoon, and put our 26-man squad down, there's probably, 4 names in there that maybe we wouldn't have expected?
3 or 4, maybe, yeah.
None of us would have had Ivan Toney. I mean, not Ivan Toney wouldn't have had himself by the sound of things.
The fact he's at the embassy this morning tells you everything.
Yeah. As far as the back four is concerned, I think it will be James, Konsa, Gay and O'Reilly to start the first game of the tournament. I think we're pretty solid on that. So therefore, you can afford to take a couple of wild cards, a couple of slightly different players that fill gaps later on in the tournament. John Stones, we mentioned the lack of minutes. We can't expect him to play 10 games or 8 games in 4.5 weeks. It's not viable bearing the amount of minutes that he's got under his belt. But class is permanent, and Thomas Tuchel likes to have him around. If you remember last year when we were in Girona, he wasn't fit. But he brought him into the camp even though he wasn't part of the squad because he wants him around. Why is that? Just explain to us what it is about him that he really likes.
Well, these boys have got to spend 7 weeks together, so you've got to have the chemistry right within the group. If you've got some great influences within that group, it's brilliant, just to facilitate everyone. More importantly, I, as a manager, never had to worry about number 1 to 11. They looked after themselves. You take them to a major tournament, they're picked, they're happy. It's the ones from 12 to 26. I always used to make sure, as a manager, whenever we went to a major tournament, the day after we played, I would be one of the coaches on the training pitch, taking the coaching to show to those numbers 12 to 26, I'm here and I care about you. You have to do that. You have to do your work with those players. If you've got a few role models in there on the playing staff that can do that for you, double whammy.
The shot is in from Trey Hume, and Sunderland are in front. They want more than what they have. They want European football, and they're gunning for it.
Brian Bromby with a shot, but it was going wide, and Augusto managed to knock it into his own net. For the first time ever via league position, European football will come to Sunderland.
When it came up on the board that European football was achieved, I think I got a little bit emotional. Grandson looked up at me and he went, "Hey, Grandad." I went, "No, son, it was that flare. You know, it's got a bit of smoke in Grandad's eye."
What a story it has been at Sunderland. I cannot wait to start travelling around Europe with my hometown club.
It's Mickey Gray, Kevin Phillips, two Sunderland stalwarts. And joining us now to reflect on a season he can probably scarcely believe is one of the producers of Sunderland Till I Die, the fine documentary series. It's from Fulwell 73. Gabe Turner. Hi, Gabe.
Oh, boys, this is unbelievable. Sunderland in Europe. It is unreal. I'm wearing my sun hat for the European tour, ready to go.
Yeah, we can see it. You look good.
Nice hat. Yeah, very, very nice. Is that club shop? Is that club official?
Yeah, the merchandising in this club over there, since the takeover has gone through the roof. The merchandise, they've gone back to the olden days, and it's absolutely sensational. We're all dripping in everything that they've ever put on sale. My son, Wolfie's got head to toe, and all the Perlmans. A massive family showing every time Sunderland go out, and they're all drenched in merch.
You've managed to make, so you've made your lad a Sunderland fan. Has that been difficult, not living up there? Has it made it difficult for him at school at times?
Well, in the very early days, I think it was tough. It was actually tough with my wife because he wanted a Tottenham shirt and I refused it. And she was like, "You got to let him be. You got to let him express."
Tough love. No, you did the right thing, even as a Tottenham fan.
Definitely did the right thing.
Absolutely right. But now there's so many of us. There's a big contingent. Obviously, me, Leo, and Ben. Leo and Ben, the other producers, Sunderland side, they actually did the original series. But we all go together and we take all our kids. So there's a massive cohort of us that go. So it's easy for them, and they're loving it. We're the best team in the world right now. So easy.
Start of the season then. Gabe, what would you have been chuffed? Looking at the business they did you think, we got a chance maybe because it would be top 10? I doubt if you dreamed that you'd be in Europe and finish in 7th, but would you have been happy just to stay up, or did you have higher expectations than that?
No, I would have been happy to stay up season 1 because no one stayed up in ages. So I would have been happy to stay up in season 1. But when we signed Xhaka, everything changed, truthfully. I remember seeing Mukiele being interviewed, basically saying, "I came here because of him." Like, they played together at Leverkusen, he'd been on loan. But I think once you sign a player like Xhaka, who's going to lead you on the pitch and who's got such a reputation in football, then other players sign. And so I thought then there might be something here. But I didn't think it would be Peter Reid, seventh finish special. And in those days, we didn't get into Europe at 7th. But now we'll be battling it out with AC Milan and Juventus to see the UEFA Cup.
They had a bit
special.
When Xhaka was out, they did have a bit of a sticky period, wasn't he? He showed how important he was for the team.
Yeah, it was interesting because people thought it was because of AFCON. So everyone thought we had a wobble because of AFCON, but it was actually because Xhaka got injured. But yeah, it's just been the most magical season, really. You know, Chelsea away 2-1 was sensational. And the atmosphere, really, since Dan Ballard scored against
Not for me,
Coventry.
it wasn't, believe it or not.
What was that, sorry?
Well, we've done you twice. But no, since Dan Ballard's goal against Coventry, really, we've been on this roller coaster that's just been, you know, last minute goals. And the club did this thing called Till the End. It was like a branding thing, Till the End. And it's just proved so true because we score late goals, we win games that we shouldn't win. It's just been, honestly, I mean, I woke up this morning, played a game of paddle, beat my friend's 2 kids, Lenny and Archie, happy as Larry for the day. And I'm just like, I can't get over it. I keep saying to my wife, I just cannot get over next year we're going away in Europe. I thought I wake up this morning I'd be back in the world, but I'm not. I mean, I'm literally in Wonderland. I can't put it into words.
Just going back to Xhaka, we were talking to Stan Collymore earlier, and he talked about Andy Robinson potentially going to Spurs, and he said he's just the sort of guy that will go in there and just set standards. And I'm surprised the more teams that don't come up. And I know they're not easy to always sign those sorts of players. But I think if you are going to come up, you kind of do need a player like that, just to remind everybody of what you have to do to play in that league.
Completely. I mean, I've not seen a player have an impact at Sunderland ever like that before. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, from the second he got on the pitch in the first game, he took over. And I cannot believe no one else was in for it. I just cannot believe that we had a free run at someone who I think is just, I mean, I can't see him not. I think I saw Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes on their podcast talking about whether United should sign him. I think Schmeichel was saying they should. And they were like, well, I'm not sure. There's no doubt that he would make a difference to any of those clubs in the top 6, even if he doesn't play, just being around the place. I mean, he's heroic. I adore the man. I just adore him.
So, is that the one you cover? Is it the San Siro you really want to go to? Or, you know, is that?
I quite fancy in middle of nowhere, a couple of rounds in middle of nowhere that I've never heard of. And then, yeah, I'd like us, when we win it, it would be good to win it against Juve or AC Milan, I think. You know, you want a final against a big name. So I kind of take them or Celta Vigo in the final.
I think it's a chance to go to play. I don't know if you've ever been to Azerbaijan, but maybe that's another place you could take in on the Euro
100%.
Yeah.
100. I literally cannot wait. I was trying to explain earlier that this is the best Sunderland have ever been in my lifetime. And I cannot wait to go to all the games. And I think the club's in such good hands now. You know, the way that it's run top to bottom, it's just a pleasure to be around the place. And obviously Leo's on the board, so we see sort of a little bit under the hood, and it's sensational. The recruitment, everything about the club is just second to none. So I'm on this ride. I'm loving it. I think I read somewhere they think it's the second best performance or sort of long shot performance outside of Leicester City winning the league. But as an outsider story of achievement, they think it's second only to that in Premier League history. And I would second that.
And finally, in relation to Sunderland Till I Die, one of the great strengths of it was just the characters, the bog standard Sunderland fans that you came across on a regular basis. Do you keep in touch with any of those guys?
I personally don't. I mean, whenever we see them, it's amazing. But no. But I'm thinking of Ian today. He would have absolutely loved it. And I'm sure Michelle, who we do see a bit, would have been absolutely loving it yesterday. There's that really special moment in season 3 when Ian passes away and Michelle's on the pitch with Luke O'Nien. And I just want to mention Luke O'Nien because the way he played yesterday was like, I can't really describe it. This is a guy who played in League One for Sunderland. And he's gone the whole way through the divisions. And he went in against Chelsea at centre-back and was basically one of the best players on the pitch. Yes. I can't get into my head how good he's been. It's mind-blowing. Totally mind-blowing. But yeah, all of the guys that are in that film or in the series, we love them dearly. And whenever we see them, it's delightful. But yeah, I imagine they were all in Wonderland too yesterday.
Well done, Gabe. Good to talk to you. We'll catch up with you soon. All the best.
Thank you. And just to say, I love that you bring me on every time Sunderland do well. Please carry on doing it for the rest of the time. It's the greatest privilege ever to be on this radio show as the resident Sunderland fan. I love it. I adore it.
Good man. Thanks a lot, Gabe. Cheers.
Take care. Cheers, guys.
Gabe Turner there, the producer of Sunderland Till I Die, which documented a slightly less impressive period in the club's history. But, yeah, well done to them. 7th and on a European tour. We're going to be chatting to a Villa fan very shortly who was slightly blindsided by the future king at the final in Istanbul last week. Anyway, that's all coming up in a few moments' time. We're going to talk to Tom Allnutt, the journalist called out by Roberto De Zerbi in a fairly light-hearted way as being too negative in the build-up. And how have the referees and the officials performed this year? Graham Scott will be joining us for a chat later.
Look at some of the attackers, Palmer and Foden left at home. The two omissions probably that define the talking points of the squad.
But we all expected it. I've been saying it for the last 2 months, and Manchester City fans and Chelsea fans are like, no, you can't leave them out. It's Cole Palmer, it's Foden. We know what Palmer can do in big games, but when you're not performing in that position where we got so much talent, like Rodgers, Eze, look at Bowen, unfortunate not to be in the squad. Gibbs White can't get in the squad, so I don't think it's a shock that Foden and Palmer don't make it.
One of the things that he has said, Thomas Tuchel, is that he wasn't going to take a batch of number 10s. He was going to take players that played in specific positions in that front line. He has only taken 3 of them. He couldn't take 5. He didn't want to take Foden and Palmer and then crowbar them into the team out of position. Is that the right call?
I think so, because we saw, going back to the last European Championships, Gareth Southgate tried to do that with Foden in particular, and he ended up having a nightmare of a tournament. Palmer was used only sparingly. So, yeah, I understand the argument. I would have taken one more in that number 10 position, because obviously you can play Bellingham deeper if needed as well. And I think if you're talking about taking one more, Gabby's dead right on form. Foden has been off it for a long time. Palmer has had an injury-afflicted season and hasn't really been the Cole Palmer of old. Morgan Gibbs-White would have been the one for me. You look at his numbers, his best ever goal-scoring season. He's carried Forest away from relegation danger into a major European semi-final. So I think of all the players that have been left out, he'll be concerned this morning. I was just thinking there, actually, can we lend a few of these to Scotland? They'd appreciate it.
Unnecessary? Would you say unnecessary stoking the fires?
He is. I don't know whether that's an insult to England or Scotland at this moment in time. We'll dig deeper later.
Morgan Gibbs-White, the joint most goal contributions of any English player in the Premier League this season, didn't make the squad. 17 goals, Europa League semi-finalists. Come up with some big moments as well when Forest have needed it most. As a Forest man yourself, does that irk you a little bit?
I've looked at Gibbs-White's performances over the last 2 or 3 years. When he plays well, Forest play well. He does have dips in form, to be fair, and it's probably cost managers their job on occasion, to be quite honest with you. But the bottom line is, at this moment in time, if you turn around and said who is really bang on form, Gibbs-White is one of those people.
Villa are looking so much more dangerous on the counter-attack, and it's played through by Barkley, and Watkins is in. Ollie Watkins, one-on-one. Ollie Watkins! Superb! Ollie Watkins with his second, but the flag does go up. Now, I think that's tight. And what will the judgment be? Andy Madley makes the signal. Goal! Aston Villa have turned this game around.
Villa didn't follow the script yesterday. Rained on City's parade at Pep's farewell. And as Andy said earlier on to Stan Collymore, what a good result that was for them. And Ollie Watkins playing well at the right time from an England point of view, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see him come into form. Amazing after celebrating. Oh, I've got a problem with my headphones. Sorry about that.
You're right. You're clicking a bit.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Okay, we'll work on that. Let's say hello to our next guest. He's part of the Claret and Blue podcast. And last week over in Istanbul, I had the opportunity to meet Prince William. Matt Kendrick joins us. Hello, Matt.
Hello, fellas. How are you?
We're good. Isn't it happy birthday we should be leading off with? Is that right?
It is, yeah. Although I think my wife and my kids have struggled to eclipse the surreal present that I got last week, both in the form of a first trophy for 30 years and what followed. I'm still not sure. You know, I think I floated home on air from Istanbul on Thursday. So yeah, it's still really, really weird. I can't come to get to grips with it really.
We can. I think we can play a little bit of the exchange that you had with Prince William. Let's give you a flavour of it now. Oh no, we haven't got it. Okay. All right, fair enough. We'll try.
It did happen, didn't it? I'm just checking. It did happen.
No, it did. Yeah,
it definitely did happen.
We haven't got it. Okay, we've got it now. Let's have a listen.
82, yeah. 82, yeah. Oh shit, just missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, just missed it. 44 years, eh?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
When are you coming on the podcast?
I've been thinking about it. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, that's
genuinely.
You are.
Genuinely.
I swear to God.
Oh, this is weird.
How do you get most of my information? I watch you lot.
This is weird.
But we just talk rubbish.
You do talk rubbish. It's very true, but it's good rubbish.
That's great.
Nice. So he listens. He watches. You sounded completely surprised, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure the kind of etiquette you're supposed to use when you're dealing with the future king, but he summoned us by name after the match, and we'd had a couple of, interactions. I tried to get a selfie pre-match, and his bodyguards had said, no, if you have one, everybody have one. And then we were about 10, I think we had better seats. We were about 10 rows in front of him. And every time we scored or, we had a little look round, and I think he was giving us a fist pump back. So we felt we got that connection. An hour after the game, we've soaked up all the celebrations and about to leave the stadium and caught his eye again. He's still in the director's box, and he's actually summoned us over by name. And, it was just a case of elbowing. We're normally quite good when we speak to our fellow Villa fans, stop for a minute. We're elbowing them out the way. We were clambering over seats and stuff. Thought, well, this is our moment. And yeah, I'm not sure. I think we called him mate rather than your majesty. We abandoned all kind of protocol.
That's brilliant. I read that he goes on online forums under a pseudonym. Did he admit this to you or not?
Well, he said that, he really spooked us because he knew our names. He said, I think Dan, I don't know whether you saw it on that bit, Dan, my kind of co-host or whatever you want to call him, said, but we speak, we just speak rubbish. He said, you do speak rubbish, but it's good rubbish. So that's going to be our strap line. That's going to be all over our posters when we have the live event and stuff. I'm not sure what his burner account was. I mean, I joked immediately post-match. It was kind of, Big Willie HRH or something like that. But goodness knows what he goes under.
He's probably taken a couple of random Villa players' names from the past, He calls himself like Gary Daly or something like that. Maybe he's just gone down that route. I've got no idea. Yeah, Gabby Agbonlahor, or possibly. Maybe. Well, that's a real name, isn't it? Yeah, maybe. I mean, call yourself Gary Agbonlahor. Yeah, that would work.
I think the fans and the players appreciate that. The royal support, because you wouldn't necessarily associate him being a football fan, but he is. He's the president of the FA, but he's a real fan.
Yeah,
and Villa. But of course, in that area, it's like Rupert. When Villa have sort of different sections of fans, don't they?
Yeah,
they're sort of the Birmingham fans, but then they also have this
sort of Cotswold set,
Cotswoldy set, like Rupert, like him.
I'm guessing you're not part of the Cotswold set, Matt. I'm making a value judgment here. Is that right?
I'm not part of the Cotswold set. I'd probably behave with a bit more decorum if I was. But I think the good thing about Prince William, my new mate, was that, listen, he's a very, very, very good communicator, but it seemed genuine to me. It seemed that, I was never going to meet him up at his level. So he came down to ours, and just surreal things like, he knew our Villa reporter on Birmingham Live and Birmingham Mail, John Townley, and he's like, give our best to John. He's much quicker and more prolific than his predecessor. And it was just like these really random things. And the one thing that I found was the actual cherry on the top was, and I said this on the video that we've done on YouTube, was my son couldn't be in Istanbul because he got an A-level exam on the day of the game. So I'd felt dad guilt all week. But the fact that he was able, the future King of England had time to send him a message. And then my son received that message and said, "Oh, Dad, you're pretty cool, you are, aren't you?" And I thought, well, that's enough for me. That's my equivalent of lifting the trophy.
Yeah.
So to earn dad points, that was the real kind of moment for me.
That's the nice thing, So often interactions with royals in the past, they've always been a bit stodgy. Have you come far? We have come from Birmingham. I'm in Istanbul.
I think he's a proper fan.
He came across incredibly relaxed with you guys. I mean, it's they're the sort of things that I think that probably brings people closer to the royal family than the more sort of traditional stuff.
Well, we do obviously a lot of football, Villa chat, and it's been a real roller coaster this season, particularly that last couple of weeks. But we also do nonsense like, who would win the World Cup of crisps? Would it be, barbecue beef hula hoops versus, salt and vinegar squares? And we're thinking, can we smoke him out in the comments by doing a quiz like that? What would win? Would it be barbecue beef hula hoops or caviar squares and that kind of thing? How can we get him to reveal his true self? I think we will have another nibble. Now we've made his acquaintance.
Yeah.
I think we will try and write to the Palace and see if we could, pop down halfway, meet at a service station on the M40 or something and get a proper podcast over the line. But in the meantime, I've got to remember that my team has won its first trophy, its first European trophy in over 40 years, because this kind of we got carried away by all of this. If none of this would have happened, it would have still been the experience of a lifetime. To be in Istanbul and to see what Unai Emery's done for Aston Villa, and to see what Unai Emery's done for Aston Villa. It's a wonderful time to support Villa at the moment.
And we were just saying our attention now turns to England, and we need all these players in good nick. And there was a period when Ollie Watkins probably wasn't going to make the squad. Tuchel said he wasn't doing quite enough, but he reacted well to that, didn't he? Just didn't sulk, got on with it, played himself back into form.
He's been so good recently.
He's going to be so important, I think.
I think so, and I think we've discussed this quite a lot recently in the fact that it's very rare for a centre forward to be an introvert. They tend to be a little bit more outgoing and a little bit more, have more ego about them. But Watkins seems to be, I don't know, he probably is his own worst critic. But there was we weren't back in time for the parade in Birmingham on Thursday. We were still flying back from Istanbul. But some of the footage I've seen, they've all obviously had a drink. I don't think they've stopped. I think they've been on it. Even the Lucasade bottles at the Etihad yesterday, I think they've got a shot of vodka in them or whatever. But something, whether it was that snub or whether it was that knock to the ego, has got him really, really firing. And he's played with a little bit more aggression as well, and a little bit more flair and a little bit more confidence. So he thoroughly deserves it. And the fact that he put his hand up to play yesterday and getting those 2 goals got him through the 20-goal mark. He's a wonderful player. And I think I said this to His Majesty, that not only are we blessed with a great coach and a great set of players, they also seem like really good human beings as well. And to have that connection is something special.
Yeah.
There's one thing I did want to say, Paul, while I've got you. Don't want to blow too much smoke, but you, and I'm probably not that much older than me to be true, but you were one of the reasons that I got into kind of sports journalism way back when, reading 90 Minutes. It was something that not only inspired me to be a journalist, but to try and seek the fun parts of it as well. So, when I get the knighthood, I'll be shouting you out then. All right.
That's very kind of you, Matt. That's great. Yeah, it's always lovely to hear stuff like that. So, look, well done. Claret and Blue podcast. You're going to be carrying on during the summer as well?
Oh yeah, I don't know. We might have taken a slight break for 6 months if we'd have lost, I think. But we're gonna dine out. We're gonna dine out on this, I think, over the summer. We've got a live show in Birmingham next Tuesday. I think next Tuesday night. So I don't think there'll be much podcasting that night. I think it'll just be a big old party. So yeah, it's what a time! What a time to be a Villa fan.
Excellent. Good to talk to you. All the best.
All the best. Up the Villa.
Matt Kendrick, Claret and Blue podcast there, and you can go and check out that little interaction with Prince William on YouTube. It is, the boys' faces are
it's really good.
just, they're like, I can't believe this is happening. Brilliant. But it's really interesting. Anyway, someone else inadvertently made the news yesterday was Tom Allnutt from The Times and the Tottenham Way podcast, who was summoned from the mix zone into the Roberto De Zerbi press conference. Was because apparently he'd been too negative. Does he deserve that tag? Tom joins us for a quick chat and reflect on Tottenham's last day very shortly. We're here with Toolstation. Make the switch to the Toolstation Trade Club. You'll save 10% on all electrical and lighting when you buy cable and flexes. First stop, Toolstation.
Someone deal with it!
Not like that. Not like
We
that.
don't put the ball out. We never get it out of play. Ref, you've got to blow up. Don't foul.
There we go.
Yes! Come on! Come on, us! Come on! Come on! Get in there! We're in the Premier League, son! Come on! We've done it!
Well done, Jay.
We've done it! Get in! All you mugs that wanted us down!
What they have
All you mugs wanted us down!
What they have put
We've done it! Come on!
Well done. Abs, well done. Jay, before you go, I know you're doing the phone show. Just tell us. I mean, relief, right? It looked like at one point, Jay, you weren't getting out of this. How much credit does De Zerbi deserve? Because he's come in, and I can see how emotional you are. But this could have been a disaster, couldn't it?
Oh, it could have been an absolute disaster. Tottenham can't be in the Championship, right? We cannot be in the Championship. It's been a disaster season. So much has gone wrong. Deadwood all over the park. We have got to just completely change everything. Get rid of the Deadwood. Get rid of all these players who have been absolutely garbage. We've got the man in charge, Roberto De Zerbi. He is a top manager. Roberto De Zerbi will do things at this football club. Just let him have the reins and let him get on. But he's got to get rid of Richarlison, Moani, all of them. Get rid of them. They're crap. They're absolutely crap. And we find a way to do it. And I have to say a massive thanks to Aston Villa for not turning up on that day and gifting us 3 points. Because that's the one that kept us up.
We're forever.
Come on, the Spurs!
Forever in
Come on!
Jay, is there... I know the players are starting to play out for most of the season, but these lads here in the last 6 to 8 weeks, when they've needed to, they've also shown a little bit of fight, haven't they?
Yeah, some of them. Some of them. Some of them.
The reason we've stayed up is because of De Zerbi, not because of them. I couldn't...
Right.
Honestly, could you care less if you ever saw any of them ever again?
No, I don't care. I would have a fire sale. Fire sale.
Yeah.
The whole squad. Anyone who wants out, gone. Get rid.
Yeah.
Don't want to see any of them.
But again, Jay, this comes from upstairs now.
Oh, he's got to go as well. Joanne Lange, get rid of him. The first thing they should do after the full-time whistle is sack him.
Announce him.
Sack him.
Announce Vinay. Get rid of them. They should be first thing done tomorrow morning. Come on, son. Come on.
Jay, how many receipts have you got to give? How many receipts have you got in the back pocket?
Oh, I've got a few, mate. But you know what? It's embarrassing.
Yeah, you can't celebrate too much.
You want to celebrate, but
it's relief, isn't it?
It's embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing.
Hotspur 1, Everton 0. João Palhinha with Tottenham Hotspur's 18th league goal this season from a corner, whipped in by Tell. Pickford came but couldn't claim. It was headed against the post by Palhinha. It came straight back to him. He prodded it towards goal. It agonisingly trickled towards the goal line. It just about went over.
You're not up. You stayed up.
No, we're up.
No, you're not up.
What do you mean?
No,
We're up.
Holler up.
No, we're up.
No, you stayed in the same division.
No, but we're up.
No, you're not up.
No, we're up.
No, you're not up.
We could have gone down.
No, you could have gone down.
We're up.
But that doesn't mean you're up.
The only part of that football club that deserves to be in the Premier League are the fans.
Tottenham Hotspur are safe.
That was really pointless between them, wasn't it?
Oh, the relief. It got to be Abbott and Costello there, didn't it? Anyway, as Roberto De Zerbi came into his press conference after the game, he was looking for one particular journalist. Let's play you a little bit of that exchange.
What is? There isn't. Non c'è? Well, he's there. Are you happy?
Well done, congratulations. Okay.
Roberto De Zerbi was looking for one particular journalist who he felt had been a bit negative. And that was, I thought, I recognise that guy. It was Tom Allnutt from The Times and the Tottenham Way podcast. He joins us now. Hello, Tom.
How you doing?
You were summoned from the mix zone where you were sort of trying to chat to the players. So who relayed the message? Was it one of the coaching staff or one of the press guys says he wants you in there? Was it a bit like being summoned to the headmaster?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard in that clip, but there was one point, wasn't there, where, I wasn't in the room at the time, but he said something like, call him, no, not to punch, you know?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
That's not what you want to hear, is it, from a guy like De Zerbi? I was in the mix zone, but I mean, people will know after matches, journalists, you could basically either go to the press conference with managers, or you can go to the mix zone and try and speak to some of the players. So I was in the mix zone, and one of the Tottenham press guys came over and sort of said, look, I'm a bit awkward, but we need to go to the press conference now. So, from the mix zone in the Spurs Stadium to the presser, which is about, I don't know, it's about 100 metres or 50 metres away. And as I was walking along, I sort of thought, I think I sort of clocked. I thought, I bet he's going to come back to me on one of the kind of questions that we had before. Because we'd had a couple of exchanges, and honestly, guys, I've had some people on sort of X and things kind of saying, that he was having a go, or he was belittling, or he wasn't like that at all. No. He was in a great mood. He was obviously absolutely buzzing with the win and the result, and he just wanted to kind of have some fun, and it was all completely in good humour. And a few weeks ago we had an exchange. Basically, I think it was when he was talking about winning 5 games in a row. And I think I said to him something like, I think it was after a couple of injuries, and I said to him, do you think you can still win 5 games in a row given the injuries? And he said something like, yes. And I said, okay, well, why? Because, you always sort of want to find out more, right? So I said, why? And he said, I didn't really have an opinion, to be honest. I just sort of did that thing where you just sort of try and back out. I just kind of said, well, I've seen a lot of Spurs games this season. I think he took that as sort of meaning like I looked very sceptical. So I think he just had my card marked as one of the doubters, if you like. And yeah, he wanted to point it out.
Maybe it got a bit lost in translation,
But I was saying to Paul, I've got lots of Spurs friends, and every single one of them, to a man and a woman, said to me, we're going down.
Yeah.
So that was the general belief. So I don't think you were being negative.
I've listened to you on the Tottenham Way. I'd say realistic rather than negative. And, before he came in and put that little run of results together and gave the fans that little bit of belief, I think we probably were going down.
Well, listen, I think there's two things here. I mean, I think in terms of De Zerbi's appointment, when he arrived, I thought it was a brilliant appointment, guys. I thought, this is the appointment probably Tottenham should have made, definitely a month ago, but probably even at the start of the season, right? I thought he really gave them the best chance. At that point, I thought this is someone who can really get the players on side. I felt pretty positive about it, from the off. I think in terms of the club, I think it's pretty valid to be negative about this. I think most fans would completely understand journalists, pointing out that this is clearly not this successful campaign for Spurs in any way, apart from essentially the last 9 minutes of added time, you might say, in the last game. It's been a really difficult season, has it? And listen, I think De Zerbi knows that as well. I thought the tone of the press conference, the tone of the race.
Oh, have we lost Tom there? I think we have. The line was breaking up a little bit.
Every Spurs fan realises this cannot happen.
No.
And it shouldn't happen. This big club with a big fan base, a massive stadium, some pretty good players.
Shouldn't be sailing that close to them. It should never have happened. Absolutely not. There was no chairman's message or a chief exec's message or whatever in the programme yesterday, which was noted by the fans. Although today there's been a letter from Peter Charrington, who's the non-exec chairman, and he kicks off by saying nice things about the fans turning up yesterday to get them over the line and throughout the season. Then he says, our commitments to you are clear. We will build a squad led by Roberto as head coach with the right blend of experience, youth and leadership to compete at the highest level of the Premier League European football. We will invest across multiple transfer windows to rebuild, balance, strengthen this summer, representing an important first step in that work. We'll continue to modernise our football operation with a significant focus on raising standards across medical and performance.
That's one of the key things.
Yeah. We will increase investment in the academy, ensure the pathway from youth football to the first team, and says he will keep building on the women's team. Now, the cynics, understandably, because I've used that phrase before, I came up with a Latin for it. Talk is cheap should be on the badge, because Tottenham fans have been promised this sort of stuff before, and the club have not delivered. So there's a real huge level of cynicism in reply on social media to this statement. So, as we said, talk is cheap. We're going to have to see what happens next, but this is what they're claiming. It looks as if the hierarchy know they've messed up, and they've admitted as much, and this is a line in the sand moment. But anyway, as I said, we've been promised quite a lot in the past, so we shall see. We're going to go around Europe. Our thanks to Tom. He lost his line there, as you imagine. It was a bit rough, so that's Tom Horn up there from the Times and the Tottenham Way podcast. Andy Brassell's going to look at some of the big stories from around Europe. We've had some more World Cup squads, including Spain, announced today, so we may well touch on that. Gareth A. Davis joins us. It was an interesting fight, a real clash of styles, Usyk versus Verhoeven and Geezer at the weekend.
We had any TV formats for Brenda Spray?
I didn't really push it. Maybe we'll do it when we come back. And Graham Scott, former Premier League ref, will reflect on another eventful 9 months for all of the officials and VAR. And that's all to come. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. And don't forget live football over on talkSPORT 2. It's just about to get underway. Salford City versus Notts County. We'll keep you updated with the moves from that game at Wembley.
Let's get back to some calls. Go to Darren. He's a Spurs fan. All right, Daz?
All right, Daz.
Hi.
How are you, Daz?
Relieved. I'm not celebrating like some of the fans that have come on from Spurs. I think they're ridiculous. The only thing I did when the whistle went, I turned to my mates who I go with every time, and we said we're relieved, and we walked out the stadium because we just had enough. And the way fans are behaving, and calling out Chelsea, that's ridiculous. We finished 17th. They finished
10th. Yeah, they won nothing.
Hang on a minute.
They won nothing, though.
So did we.
Yeah, exactly.
We won nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, but we're a disgrace, and so are they.
Yeah, but we are more of a disgrace. And the way Tottenham fans are behaving is ridiculous.
I agree with him.
Well, you will agree with him.
No, you're speaking. He's the first one that's phoned up talking any sense.
Dazza, it's a shocking season, but it's over. It's over. Season's over. We're up. Cheer up.
It's over. It's embarrassment. What do you think people like Glenn Hoddle look when they look at that side?
I know. Well, they've got to sort it out, haven't they?
Legends of the club.
Well, they've got to sort it out, though, Daz, haven't they? Got to start again.
Yeah, they've got to sort it out, but there's no good when fans are turning around like we've won a cup. It's ridiculous.
The stayed-up trophy.
Good trophy, that, though, Daz.
The inaugural. Well done.
Mate, it's good trophy, that. Staying up
yeah,
cup.
It should be a toilet bowl. It should be a toilet bowl because that's what it was. It was toilet. It was. They should have stayed in the toilet where most of those players came from.
Holding up a toilet. Silver toilet.
That's a good trophy, that.
Holding that up. A lot.
Yeah, a picture of that.
Yeah. Someone will AI that.
Staying up trophy.
Someone will AI that and send it to us, mate.
Yeah. It's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, Dads, enjoy it, mate. It's up. It's over. We can all relax now. Got the World Cup coming up.
He's the only one under a rock.
Just relax.
The only one. Only one that's got any. Only one that's got anything about him. Only Spurs fan today.
Football fans all have stadiums we love, but do any of us have a pitch that we love? It might sound like an odd question, but pitches can be different sizes with big consequences. Why is that? And what are the actual rules? Back when association football started, pitches could be up to 100 metres wide and 200 metres long. That's longer than Ellen Road. Not the pitch, the stadium. Anyway, UEFA wanted a standard across Europe for international matches, which became 105 metres long and 68 metres wide. But some clubs had been rebels, not intentionally, but because of the stadiums. Take Highbury, for example. It was 5 metres shorter and a metre narrower, meaning away sides had a challenge to adjust. White Hart Lane was exactly the same. And actually, when Spurs temporarily moved to Wembley, they asked the FA to shorten the pitch. The FA, very offended by the sacrilegious suggestion, said no, which in fairness could have actually benefited Tottenham because when they moved into their shiny new stadium, the pitch was exactly the same size as Wembley's. Today, Forest Pitch at the City Ground is a big one. It's 2 metres wider than any other pitch in the Premier League. But the smallest of all, Craven Cottage, just 100 metres long and 65 wide. No excuse for not tracking your man. There are a couple of crazy outliers in Europe too. At Napoli's home ground, the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, the pitch is a whopping 110 metres long. At least they don't play on a slope like Newcastle do. There's a 2-metre incline on the pitch at St James's Park. And don't get me started on the old pitch at Yeovil too. It used to be a slant of 2 metres corner to corner and across the halfway line. So UEFA have their standards. So do the FA, but they do give pitches in England some wiggle room. Pitches can be anywhere between 90 and 120 metres long and between 45 and 90 metres wide. I mean, the rules state you can't have a square pitch, but in theory you could have one that's 91 metres long and 90 wide. Imagine rocking up to play a Sunday League game and the pitch is basically a square. So there are rules and regulations on sizes, with a UEFA standard that roughly everyone follows. But as we all know, size doesn't matter, does it?
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Yes, it's true. The annual cheese rolling competition at Cooper's Hill has resulted in another win for the German YouTuber Tom Kopke. That's a hat-trick of wins for him. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's basically a sort of fake cheese that they rolled down this ridiculously inclined hill.
Fake. I thought it was a real one, a real double Gloucester.
Maybe it is a real double Gloucester. It's not. You think it's a real one?
I believe it.
I think it is. It is. It's true. It's a 7-pound double Gloucester. They chase it down the hill. Often people do pick up a fair few injuries. It doesn't put people off. It always makes me think of our old mate, the late Andy Smart. He was a man who loved a dangerous sport, but he only ever did it once, and he said he was never going to go back again.
And he did running the bulls.
But what about that? Never write off the Germans when it comes to cheese rolling, Andy. That's the key. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to share with the class this afternoon?
Yes, I've often talked about Ian Owen's letters to the sun, where he writes about sport, but basically adds absolutely nothing, but just tells you what
you already know.
Here's Ian on the playoff final.
Yes.
What a great playoff final between Hull and Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
One of the best I've ever watched. Blimey, I must be easily pleased. It was absolutely awful. I really feel that's my bit. I really feel for Middlesbrough.
Editorialising.
I really feel for Middlesbrough as their players were brilliant. The only thing that separated the two sides was the thrilling goal by Hull's Ollie McBurney. It was a bit scrappy. I wouldn't describe it.
It wasn't, there's not going to win goal of the season.
Really?
You don't care if you're a Hull fan, do you?
Now for the Premier League, Hull and all the big clubs. Honestly, Ian, really. I don't know why you bother, mate. But there you go. And our old friend Colin Fodder, she did a classic thing yesterday.
I always think it was an Irish bloke called Colin Fodder.
I know.
Yeah.
I love these when she does these.
This is somebody who writes a column for one of the national newspapers. You've often spared her blushes, but you think it's just nonsense, don't you?
Well, I think it's money for old rope, basically.
Okay.
The column, and she'll write about 3 or 4 or 5 things in the column, but then sometimes she's got a little bit of space left.
Oh, yeah. So this is a bit of a filler, you think?
Yeah, a bit of a filler. This one. There's nothing like sunshine to transform a city. A few days of hot weather has changed London into happy town. It's an original thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even the cabbies look cheerful. It's a brief moment of joy before everyone starts banging on about how we can't sleep in the heat and how we'll soon be facing hosepipe bands in the garden, not pans.
No, hosepipe pans.
I love a hosepipe pan.
Yeah.
I intend to enjoy every, no doubt, short-lived second of it. Honestly, talk about that is just pure filler.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to that. Getting paid for that. And Brian Linford has had his thoughts about...
Your favourite letter writer from the Star.
Yes, Brian Linford of Pontefract.
Writes occasionally in capital letters, which you then shout in performance.
Well, I try to.
Yeah.
And he's basically writing about Tuchel's squad. And it starts with Tuchel in capital letters.
Tuchel in capital letters, yeah.
It's taken months to arrive at this squad. No gambles, really. In Ivan Toney, Saudi League. Stones in. Few games played. Maguire out. Livid always does the business. Lack of Premiership games played. Final inclusions. Hope there are no regrets stateside.
Fantastic.
It's amazing.
Somebody suggested,
it just makes no sense whatsoever.
One of the listeners suggested the other day that I'm Brian Linford and I keep writing them.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Yeah. Now the enhanced games are going on.
Oh, what a terrible idea.
And we haven't really talked about them because basically we're not interested. We think they're hateful. But they are currently going on at the moment. But, not my cup of tea. But if it's yours, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
Whose cup of tea can it be? It can't be anybody's cup of tea.
I'm a big fan of drugs, John, in sport. I've always been very pro drugs.
There should be more drugs in
Let's have some more steroids in sport. Let's get right behind
I think cheating should be encouraged. All round, not just taking drugs. Any form of cheating.
Yeah, just do what you like. Just cheat away.
I know this will come as a massive surprise to you, but Donald Trump isn't quite... There was a piece in the... Guardian on Saturday.
Yeah.
Not quite as good at soccer as you'd imagine.
Okay, he's not quite as...
Yeah.
Well, he's not into it or he's not a good player?
No, he played, actually.
Did he?
Played for the New York Military Academy. He played on the school side.
Did he? What about the Bone Spurs? Didn't they stop him running?
No, I don't think so.
I thought they stopped him being in the military.
Pete
Come on, you Bone Spurs. That was his catchphrase at the time, I believe.
Pete Tickton, a teammate of Trump's, who sometimes described him as Trump's best friend at NYMA, described the president as a top player before even making a bolder claim. The year we were on the team together, we were 11-0, a flawless season. And
this is soccer, not football.
No, soccer, absolutely soccer. Listed as a fullback, Trump, or a halfback. Paul Curtin, whose father coached Trump, remembers...
Paul Curtin?
That's his name.
You're making this up, aren't you? You've got to see more clearly in all those.
Paul Curtin, whose father coached Donald Trump, remembers a conversation he had with his dad after Trump left NYME. My father said he was a good athlete and he was coachable. But where's the bit here where he tells Trump, oh, yeah, that's right. They win a game. And he He said, "Oh no, that's right. No, it was baseball game as well."
Oh, hang on, was this baseball or soccer?
No, soccer.
Oh, it's not talking to you, Nan.
I know.
What's going on, Nan?
He asked me if I remembered a certain baseball game he was in. He asked me to tell him about it. We were losing. The bases were loaded and he was at bat. He hit this blooper, a weak hit that went over the third baseman's head and fell in behind him. Caused all of the fielders and shortstops to rush over and get the ball, while some of the runners came in and we won the game. Trump said, no, I want you to remember this. I hit the ball out of the stadium.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it's a bit Kim Jong-un, isn't it, really, finishing a round of golf in 10 shots or whatever it was.
Told fibs about his prowess.
So he plays as a fullback. I can't see him getting up and down the line.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
He looked different when he was younger.
Well, I mean, most people do, didn't they? I'm sure you did, Andy, or maybe not. Maybe you've always looked like that.
It's a brilliant bloke in the Star today who says he can't understand why Tuchel is taking 3 goalkeepers, because everyone knows Pickford will play in every game. It's brilliant, isn't it?
What if he gets injured?
Yeah, I know. It's brilliant, isn't it?
I should say hello to Simon, the Manchester United fan who I met the other day in Superdrug, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he's big listener to the show, and I said I'd give him a shout out. So Simon, lovely to meet
nice,
you.
yeah.
So Andy Brassel is going to join us shortly. We've got a couple more squads been announced for the World Cup. They're sort of unfolding, of course. So we'll be chatting to Andy about that. The Spain squad's out. We'll see if there's any shocks in there for him. We'll look at some of the other big stories from around. Another hat-trick for Harry Kane at the weekend.
What a season he's
a goal machine.
Incredible.
So Andy's going to join us. Gareth A. Davis reflects on a fight which I found far more interesting than I expected to, between Usyk and Rico Verhoeven.
Can't say it attracted my attention, but
it was
he did well.
It was quite an interesting game, and we'll discover why a little bit later. And then Graham Scott's going to reflect on the season for the officials and VAR. But before all of that, Notts County versus Salford City at Wembley in the League Two playoff final. It's about just shy of 12 minutes in. What's happening? Ian Abrahams.
Notts County 0, Salford 0 in absolutely roasting conditions. Both sides are trying to actually play, so fair play to them. Best chance so far to Notts County. Jody Jones ran from midway inside his own half, drifting right all the time. Thought he might, as he was on his right foot, have a little pop 25 yards out. Instead laid it off to his right-hand side for Tom Irapendu, who's on loan from Huddersfield at Notts County. And in the end, his ball into the box was blocked. The best thing to happen so far, I have to confess, is that my friend from the EFL next to me bought up one too many Mr. Whippies. I wonder where that's going. Notts County 0, Salford 0, live on talkSPORT 2.
How'd you buy it? He's bought an extra ice cream by mistake.
I don't know how you do that.
The moose would have devoured that, wouldn't he? Because you can't, it's going to melt in this weather.
Well, it is, absolutely.
So he did the right thing. So we're going to be joined by Andy Brassel, European.
Has he got a flake in it? I don't know why I want to know that.
Okay, well, we'll go back and find out if you like. Well, wait till there's been a goal or something happen and see if there was a flake in it. So that's sort of come. Andy Goldstein, Darren Bent, going to be with you at 4 with Drive. We're here with our good friends at Tool Station, open from 7 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Grab what you need, get on site, get it done. First stop, Tool Station.
Talking about 2-3 players, right? And I get that Spurs miss out.
But that's the track record.
There's plenty of players out there
over the many
not
years.
lads from Middlesbrough who come off the bench in the playoff final. Like, do me.
Well, he was injured.
No,
He's
but
been the best player in the Championship this season.
Yeah, I don't want to sign Championship players. Spurs don't need to sign Championship players. We've got Championship players. They've shown that. We've got Championship players.
I understand what you're saying. Hayden Hackney, I think, would be a good signing. He's been brilliant this season. But I understand what you're saying about actually you need to aim bigger than that on top of the Hayden Hackneys and that. But do you trust the owners enough?
No, I don't trust the owners.
I don't think it's down to the owners anymore. I think De Zerbi's got full control. I think he will be the one who's picking the players.
They still got to dip their hand in the pockets.
Well,
they've got to okay.
They've
got to sign off the contracts.
When they got rid of Daniel Levy, saying that they're going to spend money.
But that's my point.
Everyone was going to change the narrative, and it was sporting success that they were.
And then what happened in January? They went and sold. They went and sold Brennan Johnson for 30 mil. Brought in Conor Gallagher for 30 mil.
Net zero spend.
Well, it was net 12 with Sousa as well, but. You know,
hasn't been anywhere in the first team.
Exactly. My point is,
this is the
and
point
that's
I'm
my
making.
point. So summer coming up, this is Tottenham Hotspur, and you can't get the Champions League players. It's not going to happen. But you can still attract with those big wages.
But it's about clever
Alex
recruitment.
Scott. They're the type of player.
Well, he came from the Championship.
Yeah, I know, but he's been in Bournemouth and he's top.
No, but they
draw.
bought him from the Championship.
Yeah, but he's been playing in the Premier League.
Semenyo came. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you can be clever with your recruitment. Antoine Semenyo came from the Championship. Adam Wharton.
I don't
but
want to
he's about to win a European
player
final.
now.
Why not?
Because I don't want them. We've got to sign the Premier League players who are playing in the Premier League who have been top draw.
The point, no.
Championship.
I think you're being a snob.
The point Jamie's making.
Upgrading the squad
Absolutely.
now from where it is. They've had those middle ranking signings. They need polish to make them get over the line and pull them out of the situation they're in. Here's a question for
Michael Elise's done all right coming out of the Championship.
Go back to.
Who did you go to? Went to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then went to Bayern Munich.
Crystal Palace finished above you. They're in a European final.
Yeah, but you don't sign. We don't need players from the Championship.
You do.
Rookie. No, we don't.
You need a rebuild.
We don't need a rebuild from the Championship.
You don't need big time Charlies coming in.
What are you talking about? It's not big time Charlies. You've got to find the right prospect. But you don't sign a player from the Championship. We've got Championship players. We finished 17th.
I think you're being harsh, and I think you're being a snob. Time then to look at some of the stories from around the world of European football, and also to look at some of the European nations announcing their World Cup squads. Andy Brassel, European football expert from Trans Europe Express, joins us now. Good afternoon, Andy.
Afternoon, you guys. How are you?
Good, thanks. The Spain squad, the big headline, really. Although Andy and I were just going through the Real Madrid team, and maybe when you look at the nationalities of the players involved, maybe this isn't as big a shock as it would be. I think for the first time in living memory, no Real Madrid players in the Spain squad, Andy.
Yeah, we're showing our age there, saying not within living memory. 91 years, I think it's been since no Real Madrid players in a Spain squad. But look, Dani Carvajal has had a season where he's gradually wound down. Of course, they said goodbye to him at the Bernabeu at the weekend. He'll be leaving Real Madrid at the end of this season. The other one being Dean Huijsen, of course, who has had a difficult first season, I think it's fair to say, at the Bernabeu. The fact that the defence around him has been absolute chaos has definitely not helped him. If he'd have had a senior partner next to him. And that's been Real Madrid's big problem all season, really. You felt that they've really lacked that sort of experience to guide them through. They've missed Modric and Kroos, but not just in on-pitch ways, really. So even though Modric played far too many games last season, in his last season at Real Madrid, I think he was clearly missed in the dressing room. Obviously, everything that Real Madrid do is measured by what Barcelona do as well. The fact that they've got 8 players in the squad, and a few more that were produced by La Masia, the academy. So Alex Grimaldo, for example, is a big thing. There's no doubt about that, especially as we tend to think of Spanish international football as a bit more Basque these days as well. But Barcelona still having this enormous influence. And part of that is financially motivated, really, because the fact is Barcelona have had a difficult time financially in recent years. So it's funny, I think you look at some of those players and wonder, would they be as far along in their development if they hadn't have gone out and bought Coutinho and Griezmann and Dembele, and they hadn't flopped, well, certainly in the case of the first two, and they hadn't been paying it back pretty much ever since, really.
Looking at the squad, do you see them as a World Cup winning team?
If they're not, they're really close. There's no doubt about that. I think it's so hard to tell at this point whether players coming back in now, having had a bit of time off with injury, is that a bad thing? Normally we think, that's a question of lack of rhythm. But actually, the football calendar is so stuffed. Maybe Lamine Yamal not having to play for the last 6 weeks of the season is actually a good thing. Maybe that counts when they get into the back half of the competition. We just can't know how these players will react. Do they need the rhythm, or do they need a little break? I mean, certainly from an England perspective, the way that Harry Kane has been managed by Vincent Kompany in the last couple of months, I think, gives you cause for optimism. And the fact that Bukayo Saka hasn't been completely flogged as well. It's never good for a player to miss time through injury.
No.
But maybe in the case of someone like Saka, and you can say that about some other players, maybe this is the only way they're getting a little bit of a breather.
And the only way you're going to tell us when you get a player like Morgan Rogers play 55, 56 games this season. If he does well in the World Cup, you say, well, wasn't a factor. But if he doesn't, you'll think, yeah, that was a factor. So,
it's very true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, we were chatting to Gabe Turner, the Sunderland fan, earlier on, and he said he was looking forward to trips to Milan and Juve in the Europa League. But yeah, they have missed out, those two giants of Italian football, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's not just two huge clubs missing out, and of course the bare minimum for their season, especially in the case of Milan, who had a new coach in Max Allegri and no European football to contend with at all. So they had plenty of time to get used to his methods, have plenty of breathers. It's not just these two big clubs missing out, it's two huge coaches missing out. So Allegri, and there's got to be a question over his future after he had all that time to coach the players, and the run-in was a mess for them, really. They were really good in the first two-thirds of the season. And they're even outside contenders for the title coming out of the international break in March. And Luciano Spalletti, of course, who Juventus put everything on. Everyone around the club was saying it was a huge boost to have him in. They extended his contract before they even made the Champions League, which, you can doubt the wisdom of that. But now they're sort of so tied to Spalletti's wagon that you kind of feel that they're looking for someone else to fire in management, which maybe not great news for Damian Comoli, who's the GM there. And so much of what they've done in the last year has been shaped in his image. I mean, surely Juventus can't keep throwing out the baby with the bathwater. But, Como weren't expecting to get into the top four. Huge achievement for them and Cesc Fabregas. And Roma have desperately needed this for a long time because they've been losing money hand over fist, paying for the fact they haven't been in the Champions League for 8 years, paying for the fact that Jose Mourinho had that very big spending first summer in charge as well. So huge for them. And they didn't look like they were going to do it 3 weeks ago.
He's been a man in demand, says Fabregas, but it seems he's keen to stay at Como, especially, I suppose, with Champions League football now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That he's going to stay, isn't he?
I don't think the Champions League part of it is a factor, actually, because for them the achievement is getting into Europe in the first place. It's because he's emotionally and financially invested in the club. And I think people tested the water last summer. Well, enough people tested the water last summer. Inter were very interested. Leipzig were very interested. Leverkusen thought they had him at one point and they didn't. So I think he kind of knows, a little bit like Pochettino at Spurs, if Pochettino had a financial interest in Spurs. It's that sense that it's never going to get better for me in terms of the sort of power and influence that I'm going to have. Look, if he has a couple of rough months next season, which they might do, seeing as they're going to have to adapt to the Champions League, which would be a huge leap up for them, even if you bear in mind that they've got more money than, say, a traditional power like Milan, because of course they're very well backed by an Indonesian billionaire, he'll be able to get over that. Whereas if he went to Inter or Real Madrid and had a couple of rough months, he could be gone. So, he's still young. He's got the chance to learn on the job in quite a forgiving environment where really he's kind of working for himself and his own future and his own investment as well.
Antonio Conte has left. I mean, it's been bubbling.
Surprise.
For a few weeks. This. I mean, it is to an extent, but
no, it's not.
What's gone on? Is it the old classic not getting what he wants, the money he wants to spend on players thing?
Well, look, it was always a weird match, him and Aurelio De Laurentiis, a guy who has run Napoli quite frugally. Of course, he took them from bankruptcy, got them back to the top division and has won 2 titles in 3 years, which is remarkable, really. The only titles they've won without Diego Maradona, just to underline that as well. I think it's been good for Conte as well, because it's made him have to compromise a little bit in a way that he hasn't always been able to do elsewhere. But these 2 years have felt like a lifetime. I'm amazed that it's lasted that long. And really, if you go to the game where they clinched second place, they won, and Rasmus Højlund scored the winning goal against Udinese at the weekend, they did a joint press conference afterwards between De Laurentiis, the owner, and Conte. And De Laurentiis sits there and goes, oh, well, if it hadn't have been for so many injuries, we could have really taken on Inter for the title. And Conte goes, no, we couldn't. And he said, well, bear in mind, maybe they're not as strong as us. Well, actually, they had a load of reinforcements. And they're having this, 2 different conversations about 2 different seasons. And you're like, I'm really surprised these guys got through 2 board meetings together. Never mind that it's carried on as long.
Where's he going to rock up next, you think, Andy?
Well, he, of course, has been linked to Italy. A return to Italy, which might suit him. He was asked about that afterwards, and he said, well, can the Federation not afford Guardiola? Which I thought was quite a nice way of palming that off. But look, I think maybe Milan's a possibility, though I think, like you say, the financial question is always such a part of it. I think he really wants to stay in Italy, and he would love to stay in Italy and work for family reasons and other reasons. But what is the club out there that can really match his ambitions? I think if he doesn't get Italy, I think we're looking at a mini sabbatical. And if it goes wrong at one of the big Italian clubs, or basically if it goes wrong at Inter and they've got some money, or Juventus and they've got some money to actually fulfill his wishes in the transfer window, maybe that would be a logical next step at club level.
I've just suddenly thought if Benfica draw Sunderland in the Europa League, it's the Stadium of Light derby, isn't it? Which one they're going to play at?
Point.
It is, but it isn't. Look, it's always directly translated as the Stadium of Light, Stadio de Luz, Benfica, but it refers to the area that it's in. So, it's I don't know, if you're in Newcastle and it was called the Jesmond Stadium or the Gallagher Stadium or something like that. But it's just a little trick of translation.
It goes back to sports photographer Neil Simpson. I know took some pictures for 90 minutes there once from a game, and I wanted some Benfica players for the magazine. He said they're not great. He said the light's not very good there, which always surprised me. So that clearly has got nothing to do with that. Talking of Portugal, now the good thing about quite a lot of the European Cup competitions is you do get some shocks, and that's been the case in Portugal, isn't it?
Yeah, but there are shocks and there are shocks. And I mean, this is an enormous one. Sporting going in as the holders, I know they didn't win the league, but they really are the best team in the country. And, heavy favourites to retain their cup against Torrens, who are, funnily enough, in a playoff to get promoted to the top division. They've had an amazing season to even get to the final. They take it to extra time, and then the winning penalty in extra time is scored. It's a penalty in open play rather than part of a shootout. Stopira scores it, their left back of Torrens, and now he is. He's had an incredible week. So he gets named for the Cape Verde World Cup squad on Monday. On Wednesday, he turns 38 years old. And on Sunday, he scores the penalty that wins them the Portuguese Cup, which is just a remarkable story, really, for this guy who's an absolute journeyman. And they could still get promoted to the top flight.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well done to them. And Ajax, just a quick one on Ajax, who have been in the doldrums for quite a long time. A once great European superpower, but things looking up a bit, although they couldn't play in their own stadium. You can tell us why.
Yeah, nothing like the Conference League to cheer you up, is there?
Yeah.
Now, of course, they've had European playoffs to sort of extend the season in the Netherlands for quite a while. Now, this is to gain the Conference League place. So that's to play a semi-final Ajax and then a final, which they won yesterday on penalties against Utrecht after extra time. That's to play both of them at Volendam, though, even though they had home advantage in both of them. Because, of course, when you're at the start of the season, you're not thinking, right, we better keep the stadium clear in case we've got playoffs to get in the Conference League. If you're one of the most famous names in European football history, Harry Styles was playing at their stadium this week, so they weren't able to actually use their ground, which is just unbelievable.
Good stuff. Andy, always a pleasure. We will catch up with you soon. Thanks very much.
Look forward to it. Thank you, guys.
Andy Brassel. And if you want a deeper dive into the world of European football and beyond, Trans-Europe Express every Sunday night here on talkSPORT. It's available as a podcast if you missed the show. It's still 0-0 in the game between Notts County and Salford. Just a half an hour gone. I mean, the heat is definitely playing into this.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, 36.6.
Yeah,
tells me pitch side at the
right.
moment.
It's even hotter, isn't it, than it is?
The Moose has probably got ice cream melting all down his hand as we speak. Anyway, we'll pop back to him a little bit later and we'll certainly be there for half time. And if there's any goals that go in, we will cross back to Wembley. That is currently live over on talkSPORT 2. But I've got to be honest, I didn't have particularly high expectations of Alexander Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven. But they say styles make fights. And I don't think I've ever seen a style like Verhoeven before. Let's find out if Gareth A. Davis has. We'll be chatting to him in a few moments' time. Then looking back on the officials' season and some of the fallout from it, and what we've learned from it with the former Premier League ref and athletic correspondent Graham Scott. That's all to come before we hand over to the boys on Drive.
Lots of upheaval at your old club, West Ham United, as well. What's the first thing that they have to get right before the start of next season? Is it in the dugout?
No, it's players. I think recruitment's been the biggest reason why they've been relegated. I think it's obvious when you look at the squad in general, but certainly the signings from last summer, you think of the signings that certainly haven't worked. Fulkrug came and went, a player that was never suited to the way that West Ham play anyway. Mavropanos has got better, but wasn't very good. Todibo hasn't worked. Where are the midfield players? Again, you look at the squad list, they've got 3 midfield players really to choose from in terms of Premier League quality. So obviously the start of the season was terrible for them and they've been a bit better. But when your manager looks to the starting 11, then looks to the bench, what are you able to bring on? It is the big difference with players coming back. Tottenham have players they could call upon that I think are still capable in the Premier League. I don't think West Ham have that.
Yeah. How did you feel as a former West Ham United player, learning, as Scott did this morning, that Jean-Claire Todibo pretty much refused to play in yesterday's game because of what happened at Newcastle?
I mean, if that's true, it's disgraceful. Of course it is. There's no way you shouldn't want to be part of saving the club from relegation. You could tell how angry he was. He blanked the manager at St James's Park when he was brought off. He was so poor in the game anyway. He should really have been looking inwardly at himself, not the fact it was him that was taken off. You just hope that sort of attitude. I don't think that's the norm. I think there is a harmonious dressing room
because they've been fighting together,
yes, they have,
haven't they? Since
exactly.
they lost Paqueta in February.
You can question some of the manager's decisions in terms of the starting 11 and the system. Certainly at Newcastle, you can talk about maybe the odd really bad performance. You can't have a go at the players for a lack of effort and desire. Those that have been playing, I think I've very much seen that, and I thought that was going to be enough to keep them in the Premier League.
It's fair to say Ferrari have a track record of making some pretty gorgeous Formula One machinery. From classics to the modern age, there's only been a few exceptions to the rule. Here's a look at some of their greatest ever F1 cars. This is the iconic Ferrari 500, driven by Alberto Ascari in 1952, which helped him claim Ferrari's first driver's title. 4 years later, it was the Ferrari D50 that propelled Juan Manuel Fangio to the title. After being trounced by British teams at the back end of the 50s, Ferrari produced the 156 Sharknose for the 1961 season, and Phil Hill won the championship with that. It's fair to say Niki Lauda's title-winning 312T in 1975 was pretty iconic as well. Ferrari found little luck in the 80s and 90s, despite a beautiful collection of motors like Nigel Mansell's 640. I mean, come on, has there ever been a better-looking F1 car? When they built the Ferrari F1 2000 for Michael Schumacher, the glory days returned. That car was the blueprint for Ferrari's success over the next decade. In F1, there's simply nothing like the glory and the glamour of a beautiful Ferrari, which is why celebs can't help themselves. But they're not even the best-looking things in the garage. Can we have the Mansell one back, please? There we go. Just leave that there.
Yes, still to come, Graham Scott, the former Premier League referee, will be joining us for a chat, bit of a review of the season from an officials and VAR point of view. But first, we are going to talk boxing.
Boxing updates on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
I'm not a massive fan, like a lot of people, of these sort of crossover fights, you know, kickboxers or MMA fighters versus boxers. We're seeing someone like Alexander Usyk. But it was a very intriguing fight in Giza against Rico Verhoeven, who had just a style that, I don't know, he just really couldn't deal with. Let's see what Gareth A. Davis, at Fight Night and Telegraph boxing correspondent, he was there at the watch-along, what he made of it all. Hi, Gareth.
Good afternoon, lunchtime legends, as you're now called in your advert. I call you broadcast legends,
Good
but
man.
I think you're much more than lunchtime legends. Yeah. In answer to your question, lovely to see you on this beautiful bank holiday, gents. I think Alexander Usyk suffered the same thing that Tyson Fury did against Francis Ngannou, which is deep down in his psyche, he believed he was going to beat this guy just with his own innate and learnt boxing skills, and Rico Verhoeven proved that this was his night, even though he didn't get the decision or the points win or get to the end of the fight, as we know. But I think these crossover events are here to stay because there's jeopardy, and like you say, you're not a fan of them, but we're in an era where there's money there, certainly from the Saudi Arabians, from Turkey Al Sheikh, to put these fights up, and people aren't going to say no to them.
There's jeopardy in the first fight, Gareth, I give you that, but I think if Usyk fights him again, and there is talk of a rematch, that's not going 11 rounds, because I think he would have worked
it more seriously.
Would have worked him out, and yeah, maybe he does take it a bit more seriously.
Yeah, it was exciting and thrilling in the fact that Rico Verhoeven, who's the standout guy in kickboxing and another combat sports discipline, was extraordinary on the night. He stuck to his game plan. He was big, aggressive, smothered the space, and got a lot of punches away, and went beyond the 5-3 rounds that they normally. 5 3-minute rounds that they normally fight in kickboxing, and showed that he had a great gas tank, that he's a big, imposing figure. He's got heavy punches. He knew how to clinch. And frankly, he made Alexander Usyk look very slothful, very sluggish, and actually old. And we have that expression in boxing where sometimes fighters get old overnight. And we may have seen that in Alexander Usyk in his physicality in this fight, notwithstanding the fact that he was 10 pounds heavier than he has weighed in before, which again is a sign that he didn't think he needed to be light on his feet and did what he did against Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois and others. But I'm with you. I think a rematch, which Rico deserves, but I'm not sure the boxing world necessarily wants it, would be a different type of fight.
Yeah.
How do you think he'd go against some of the other top contenders?
Yeah, you just wonder if he's got, if he can carry on boxing, because, to go 11 rounds with someone as good as Usyk, even if he's not completely on it, is still pretty impressive.
Well, I think what Ngannou had when he fought the former UFC heavyweight champion, when he fought Tyson Fury, which he had against Fury, but maybe he didn't have against Anthony Joshua, who knocked him into the middle of tomorrow in their fight. Whereas against Fury, he surprised us. He knocked Fury down in the third round. He held his shape. He held his space. I think what we probably get, even though Verhoeven has the professor in his corner, Peter Fury, Tyson Fury's uncle, who masterminded his victory over Vladimir Klitschko all those years ago, 11 years ago as it is, he probably wouldn't be able to do too much differently to the style that he showed us. So there's stuff on him now, there's data on him that people can process, because there was very little about his boxing before. So how would he fare against the others? He looks strong, he's big, he's 260 pounds, he's 6'5", he can punch, he knows about huge occasions as he's found in his glory kickboxing career, but I mean, you're not going to rank him in the top 10 of heavyweights right now, I don't think. It was just a fine performance on a night when there was a lot of critique of the fact that he was fighting for the WBC title.
Well, one of the main reasons they're talking about a rematch is that there is a feeling amongst boxing fans that it all finished too early. There's certainly a feeling amongst some of the experts and Verhoeven himself. I mean, I always feel for refs in these situations, but even then, it did feel like he got him out very early.
He was in trouble. He'd been knocked down by a fantastic uppercut from Usyk. He was clearly beginning to get very fatigued. There was an assault after he made it to his feet again. Cleverly, his mouth guard came out. That bought him a few more seconds. And I think Mark Lyson, who's a very, very fine referee, was making his way to stop the fight as that final bell told for the 11th round, as the bell told rather for the end of the 11th round. There is that feeling in you that you'd like Rico to have been given a minute to recover and then come out for the 12th round, given the magnitude of his performance. But I do think he'd have been stopped. I think he was in trouble, even though at that point Rico was ahead on one of the judges' cards, and it was even 95 split for two of them on two of the other judges' cards. That was at the end of the 10th. So Rico would have needed a knockdown or a knockout to win the fight. But it's a shame it didn't go into the 12th round, but I think we'd have got a conclusive finish. Notwithstanding the fact, though, that Rico proved something about the unorthodoxy of other martial artists at that level coming in against boxers. It's an extraordinary thing, really, that we witnessed.
One of the maddest stories of the weekend, boxing-wise, is that Tyson Fury wants to buy his local non-league club, Morecambe FC, with his pal, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Yes, that Zlatan Ibrahimovic, not the plumber. Apparently they want to buy it and make a Netflix documentary, The Rise of Morecambe. How can you see this happening, Gareth?
I definitely can, and I'd much rather that happen than the tease that Zlatan put out a couple of days ago that they were going to box in Dublin on August the 1st. Because I don't really want to see that crossover fight anytime soon, even though Zlatan is apparently brilliant as a taekwondo player.
Nice one. Cheers, Gareth. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much. Have a good day.
Cheers, gents.
There we are. Gareth A. Davies, I'm sure, back for fight night this Saturday. It's a massive weekend of boxing on DAZN. Friday night, York Hall, Charlie Edwards, who popped in the studio, saw us a little while ago, takes on the South African Seco and Katole. Saturday, the feud finally gets settled in Houston. Shot Foster defends his WBC super featherweight title against Raymond Ford. And later that night, the pound-for-pound star Dimitri Bivol returns with his light heavyweight titles on the line against mandatory challenger Michael Eifert. That's 3 fights, 1 weekend, all on DAZN. We're going to talk to the former Premier League referee and athletic columnist Graham Scott in a few moments' time and look at the year from an official's point of view. It's not been without its controversy.
I think they should be relegated.
Yeah. Before all of that, though, Manchester City are having a big trophy parade today in Manchester. And I think we can cross to John Dunn, our very own reporter, who's at the parade. John.
Cheers, Paul. Cheers, Andy. Good afternoon from sunny Manchester. We don't get this very often, so we're making the most of it. Manchester City certainly making the most of it. This is a massive celebration. The men's team with the domestic double, the women's team winning the WSL. They've got an FA Cup final next week as well, and the youth team winning the FA Youth Cup. Of course, bittersweet. We saw the emotional scenes at the Etihad Stadium yesterday. The departure of the legendary players John Stones and Bernardo Silva. And of course, Pep Guardiola, after 10 years, departing after a trophy-laden spell with the club. Fans are starting to arrive here at the Co-op Arena. This is where the parade will end. It will start somewhere over in that distance at the Northern Quarter, will make its way through Great Ancoats for people who know the area before arriving at the Colin Bell stand. Interestingly, until yesterday, that was the only stand that the Etihad named after a legendary City figure. As we know now, the North stand will be called the Pep Guardiola stand. The players will gather there for a short time before they head into the arena for what they're calling the after show. Noel Gallagher will be on stage. Fernandinho will be here. Unfortunately, Noel isn't performing, or so we're led to believe. We are going to see the Doves. We are going to have a DJ set. We've got local musician Alex Spencer here as well. But it's all about the supporters. As I say, bittersweet. They want to celebrate the success of this season, but they want to say one more time a fond farewell to Pep Guardiola, Bernardo Silva and John Stones, but also celebrate the magnificent achievements that the club have done this season and throughout Pep Guardiola's time. We're hoping to hear from many of these supporters, sky blue wherever you look. We're hoping to hear from a few City legends as well. Keep in touch throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, and we'll be back with a bit more news for you. But yeah, great atmosphere here at Manchester City.
Thank you, John. Yeah, weather looks great. Bit windy, clearly. Not John, I meant the weather. Yeah. Yeah, you'll hear from John a little bit later on, but that's all happening at the Etihad. There'll be dancing in the McKenna household. Our own Andrew McKenna, big Notts County fan. A lot of the class of 92 in attendance today. But their afternoon is getting worse, isn't it, at Wembley? Moose.
It certainly is. Notts County 2, Salford 0. Lucas Ness has just headed in the second. Ball played, a free kick play from the left-hand side, diagonally to the far side of the penalty area. It was volleyed towards goal, clearly as a tactic. And there was Lucas Ness 6 yards out. He wanted it more, really, than anybody else. And he flung himself at the ball to head the ball home. Becks doesn't look happy. Scholes doesn't look happy. The Nevilles don't look happy. The Salford manager, Carl Robinson, certainly doesn't look happy. His team about to go in at half-time, 2 down. Lucas Ness, and before that, Alessandro Jatta with the goal. And Notts County are in pole position here to get into League One for next season. The second half will be live on talkSPORT 2. On the cusp of half-time, it's Notts County 2, Salford City 0.
Thanks very much, Ian. That's live over on talkSPORT 2 currently, the game commentary. So Graham Scott, former Premier League referee, joining us for a chat in a few moments' time. We're here with Tool Station. First stop for everything for the job from 7 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Start strong, started right. First stop, Tool Station.
Just explain what the story is.
Well, basically, Romero's injured. He can't play. Now, Spurs obviously played the biggest game of the season on Sunday. River Plate are playing against his former team on the last day of the season as well. Both teams can win the league, all right? His former club, that one that he grew up with. I don't know I can't remember the name. Anyway, they kick off at 7 on Sunday. He's gone to Argentina to watch the game instead of Spurs against Everton. Now that for me, that the club captain not there on the final day of the season. If that doesn't sum up Spurs right there, that is an absolute joke. Now there might be an argument to say he's injured, he's gone out to Argentina to get treatment because of the World Cup.
I don't care.
No, I'm the same. The club captain has to be at the final game of the season. Why is the club captain not at the final day of the season? He's going to watch River play. That is outrageous. Outrageous. Yeah. That is a sackable offence. Yeah, and whoever's allowed that to happen, whether it's come from the top or Roberto De Zerbi, they should be ashamed of themselves. It sums up Tottenham in every aspect. That is allowed to happen. Like, if he don't want to be there, fine. No, you won't want to be there.
No, it's not fine.
No, it's not fine.
That's not fine.
But no, I get that. But in terms of he don't want to be at the club, he wants out, right? Get that. But his teammates will want Romero around the dressing room. His teammates, the people that he's played around, the people that he's played alongside, he's been in the trenches with, and he's decided to go and watch River play on the last day of the season. It's disgusting.
No, I am absolutely. When Ryan told me this, I looked at him and had to gaze in his eyes and said, "What are you talking about?" I'm thinking, what game is that day? Can he get back from Argentina? Why is he doing that anyway? No, he's going to miss one.
Yeah, they kick off 7:30 on Sunday.
Mate, that is...
It's outrageous, mate. It's outrageous.
Maybe he knows what's happening. Maybe he knows you're going to play in Championship football and he's thinking, do you know what, right? I know where we're going. I'd rather go and watch a decent...
That's not the point. That's not the point.
And Spurs.
That's not the point. You can't get away with that. You're a club captain. Club captain is not there on the final day of the season. That is...
It's disgusting.
It is so bad. So bad.
Time then to... we were quite VAR-free yesterday, Andy. Did you notice that? There wasn't anything particularly contentious, which was excellent. But the officials...
Apparently Stockley Park was locked. They couldn't get in.
That's right.
Tremendous.
Somebody lost the keys. Graham Scott writes refereeing columns for The Athletic. He's until recently a former referee and been involved in VAR. He joins us now. Hi, Graham.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, contentious-free final day, thankfully. I can't think of anything particularly, can you?
No, there was nothing really. Was there a few bits, and there's always a few decisions that could have been, but nothing that anyone could get angry about, I don't think. Someone will. Someone will be fussed somewhere, but I think overall it was a pretty quiet day.
What's your overview then of the season from an officials and a PGMOL point of view?
It's always difficult to answer that, isn't it? Because whenever I say anything, it will be always just defending people. But generally, it's been okay. It's not been bad. There's been not been that many real proper howlers. Clearly, there's been decisions that have been wrong, and some that really shouldn't have been wrong. Should have been got right in the first place. But we've had 3 VAR interventions that have made a good decision bad. And fortunately, one of them made no difference at all. It was at 5-0 in a game. And only one really had a big bearing, which was at Chelsea Fulham right early in the season. So That's when VAR's at its absolute worst. But I think from the referee's point of view, there are still some major issues, mainly around holding in the penalty area.
Yeah.
I think it's the thing that people raise with me most is they're just fed up with it now. And they largely blame the refs, but there is some sympathy that actually it's not really possible to police it the way it's going. And we're going to have to do something. And the league and the PGMO are going to have to get together over the summer and sort it out, because we can't have another year. It's really taken so much out of my enjoyment of watching the Premier League this season. I do hope they can come up with something that will improve that situation.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Chelsea-Fulham decision there, and obviously every club thinks that the referees are against them. That's a given, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they have had 9 red cards. You know, a lot of them are double yellows, and there is just a feeling, obviously amongst the Chelsea fans, that possibly, this thing where it's a higher threshold. I mean, for example, Arsenal had no red cards and no penalties against, and that seems like almost impossible, an imbalance. And all the other thing I'd say to you,
What are you suggesting, Andy?
no, nothing at all. But what
Unconscious bias.
slightly, and also, well, because I think it does exist. I think it's natural. They're only human beings,
Yeah.
So that this is a thing. But
They're all
if you-
closet gooners.
But what if a team is suffering like this? 9 red cards is completely unacceptable. What can be done about it, Graham? This new manager coming in, can he sort this out? Can he send a message to the PGMOL that Chelsea aren't going to be doing this next season?
Well, they can try. I mean, the best thing they can do, of course, is to behave differently. I mean, if you look at Chelsea, the way they've played, they've been on the edge a lot of this season. They could have easily had more red cards. Look at what Delap did the other night.
Oh, yeah,
that's not clever.
No.
I mean, okay, I can defend it. I can defend the ref and say, yeah, he's not swung his arm, he's not quite enough for a red. But if we're behaving like that, and it's not just been that incident, there have been several through the season, same player pushing a player into the advertising boards at Man City for no reason. So they have been playing on the edge. They've been involved in mass confrontations. They've been charged a couple of times. They've got in an altercation with the other technical area against Villa, albeit no doubt there's a bit of winding up going on the other way. We don't know.
All
But
that nonsense around Tierney was pathetic. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So I do feel as if there's been a couple of clubs, not just Chelsea, but Tottenham have been the same a lot of the season. We think, and I don't see what I can understand playing on the edge in the sense of being very, very competitive, physical, trying to get one on your opponent. But if you take that too far, you're going to run into disciplinary issues. And I don't think anyone could really look back on the Chelsea red cards and say, blimey, they've been really unlucky there. If anything, especially in the first half of the season, Chelsea were benefited from VAR calls that actually were taken to be incorrect. So I don't think Chelsea got any grounds at all this season. And in fact, if you look at the clubs, it's kind of evened out for most teams. Arsenal have benefited slightly. Whether it made any real difference, hard to say. Man City really benefited from the goal that was disallowed when they played Liverpool. That was a bit of a sliding doors moment, I thought, because Liverpool were never quite the same again, and had a bit of a poor run after that. And City kind of then got into their stride. So generally, I don't think anyone's really getting to the end of the season saying league positions have been dramatically affected by decisions. Of course, there's stuff in the margins, but not really. No one's going. West Ham aren't coming out and saying, "Well, if only we had that penalty in November" or anything like that. It's not really had that much impact.
Graham, we're out of time. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Graham.
You can read Graham has written a piece looking back on the season on The Athletic. You can go and check that out. But we'll speak to you soon, Graham. Thanks very much.
Thanks both.
Graham Scott, their former Premier League referee. Our thanks.
He does talk a lot of sense, Graham.
Yeah, he does. Thanks to all our guests this afternoon. We'll be back tomorrow from 1. Coming up next, enjoy the rest of your bank holiday, and we'll keep you in touch with the football, which is live over on talkSPORT 2, Notts County. It's 2-0 half-time to Notts County against Salford City. But Annie Goldstein and Darren Bent going to be here shortly with Drive.